All right, it is 6:30 p.m. We'll let the last minute shuffling take place. All right, it is 6:30 p.m. and I will call the City Council meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councillor Heller?
Here.
Councillor Eber?
Here.
Councillor Holen?
Here.
Councillor McGuire?
Here.
Councillor Robinson? Here. Councillor Fisher?
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is a very special presentation. We have with us tonight Mr. Chuck Weiss, who is president of the Colorado chapter of the APWA. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you. APWA, that's American Public Works Association. We support all of the communities across Colorado, as our chapter does. And I am the 2026 president, and it is my pleasure tonight to acknowledge Jay Goldie as our Professional Manager of the Year. Jay has been on the Colorado board here for several years, and he was actually our president here in 2024. So I've had the great opportunity to work alongside him and learn quite a bit here about public works. Just a quick background on Jay. In 2024, he celebrated his 20-year anniversary with the city of Cherry Hills Village. He started with the city as the Parks and Trails Administrator in 2004, becoming the Public Works Director in 2006, Deputy City Manager, Public Works Director in 2011. He led the city to become only the 4th accredited Public Works Department in Colorado and only the 94th accredited Public Works in the United States and Canada. He has a master's degree in public administration and is credentialed as a manager with the International City-County Management Association and also a certified public manager through APWA. He's been a member since 2006 and has been active on the national and local levels, serving on our board of directors. Jay is committed to advancing professionalism of Public Works Department. He's committed significant time and involvement to our APWA state chapter, serving as treasurer and board president. Over the 20 years, he's developed the Public Works Department into what it is today. He's a significant influence in the culture of the city workforce. He provides the space, encouragement, and support for employees to expand their skills. He takes a practical and open-minded approach to new technologies and practices. He applied for and received approximately $50,000 through the Regional Air Quality Council Mow-Down Pollution Grant in 2024. And on the street side, he oversaw the creation and implementation of the city's strategic pavement system and chip seal program, which maximizes available funds and maintains the roads in excellent condition. In 2024, Jay implemented a new interactive snowplow mapping system that helps residents stay up to date on how long it takes since their street has been plowed. When the plows are deployed, their paths of travel appear on the map on the city's website. Just to summarize here, Jay's long career of dedicated public service has provided immeasurable benefits to the residents of Cherry Hills Village. His generosity in sharing his expertise has also expanded his influence in communities throughout the state and across the country through his work with APWA. Jay is an exemplary leader, a well-rounded public works professional, and a committed public servant. And I just personally want to say Jay is a great friend and somebody that I look up to in the public works field. So congratulations, Jay.
Thank you so much. I think we need a photo op.
Yeah, I think we do. Raise your hand.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You can do the plaque handoff.
All right.
Yeah.
Do that.
Do you want us to come down there?
Yes.
Or at least just not be randomly sitting in the back.
Oh yeah, you guys can come down and we'll do just you guys in front of the dais, and we'll do all of council in front of the dais too.
You can do just the two of them for now.
That's
Yeah. Once we clear it.
Upside down.
perfect. Do you want to do okay? All
Yeah.
of
Now council can go. Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Great, thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So yes, Jay, congratulations. We all know what a gem you are for our community. It's nice to have that acknowledged and recognized in a professional way. So, audience participation. No one is signed up. If anyone wanted to speak? Nope, okay. Reports from members of city boards and commissions. I do see one present, but I know she's here for another item on the agenda, so we'll move on. I would actually like to remove the December 10th minutes from the consent agenda. Does anyone have, okay, and then otherwise?
Otherwise, I'll move approve the consent agenda items 7B, C, D, and E.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So then going back to item 7A, the approval of the December 10th, 2025 minutes, and I apologize for not, trying to mention this further. At the very beginning, when it says Counselor Dave Heller was present by electronic participation and could hear the meeting but was unable to make himself heard, we did fix that at some point, and so I just thought maybe it could just say was present by electronic participation. I didn't want, if anybody looks back on this and just looks at that,
Kate, it does say, it specifies when it was fixed.
yeah, I just worry that, yeah, or maybe, maybe it says here was unable to make himself heard at the beginning, but joined in later or something. Yeah, okay. So with that, that's the only comment I had about the minutes.
So, sorry, so add in just to this part that he could be heard later, or just take that out completely? What do you guys want?
I think just delete it.
Delete it. Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that, Mayor.
So then with that, we move approval of consent agenda item 7A as amended.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. Moving on to new business, we have a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at 6:39 PM for Resolution 4, Series 2026, approving a site plan amendment for renovations to the chipping and putting area located on Lot 1 of the Cherry Hills Country Club Consolidation Plat. And I will turn it over to Director Workman for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. It's nice to be back in the swing of things here after the first of the year. As was just mentioned by the mayor, Cherry Hills Country Club submitted an application for review this evening for a site plan amendment for renovations to their chipping and putting area. Please note for the record that the applicant has provided the necessary affidavits verifying that all public notification requirements have been met. For those that may not be as familiar with the property, the area that's in question for this evening is located just north and west of the existing Cherry Hills Country Club clubhouse. Specifically, it's between lots 11 and 14 of Cherry Hills Drive. Just as a reminder for council, Cherry Hills Drive is a private road that the city does not control. It's currently zoned O1, and the site was acquired by the club in the late 1980s and has been used as a practice area for many years in support of the club. These two pictures are taken of the subject property. They're both taken from Cherry Hills Drive looking to the south. The picture on the top left corner is looking at the northeast portion of the property, again, looking from the south. And then the picture on the right is the northwest corner, again, looking south at the subject property. The applicant's detailed request is included in your packet for this evening, so I won't go through and read every word that's on this slide. But there are essentially 5 things that the club is intending to accomplish with this request. The first is demo and reconstruction of their short game practice facility. The second is the demo of unnecessary roadways and impervious area. The third would be the widening of the existing emergency access driveway that provides them access to their maintenance facility. The relocation of the existing access gate, and then an introduction of some wayfinding signage along Cherry Hills Drive to try and help some of the wayward traffic that may not be as familiar with the area. Put graphically, this image is an image of the subject property. Those areas that are those red polygons there, those are the areas of the property that are proposed for demolition. The green areas are those areas that are proposed for reconstruction. And the blue areas are the areas that exist today and no proposed changes are contemplated as part of the application. Just because it's a little hard to see, I will highlight that the existing gate that controls access is clear down here on the south side of the access. The new location would be much closer to Cherry Hills Drive to, again, try and eliminate some of that wayward traffic that gets lost. And then there is a proposed wayfinding sign out by University there that CDOT has looked at as part of the review. I do want to acknowledge that this is a bit of a unique site plan amendment from what council's typically used to seeing. Right? Generally speaking, these site plan amendments are for buildings or structures or changes to parking areas, things of that nature. This particular request is primarily focused on what I would call horizontal changes to the property and grading rather than vertical changes to the property that you're more typical to see. However, as was detailed in your staff report, because they are doing work within 100 feet of a property line, it does trigger this public hearing process. Saying all that, there are 2 proposed vertical improvements, if you want to call them that. The first is a short 2.5-foot retaining wall located along the north/northwest property line. It's the straight green line. It's on the screen there in front of you. And then the relocated and updated entry gate there. As council is very aware, there are 6 specific approval criteria that we as staff use to review the application, make a recommendation to Planning and Zoning Commission. These 6 criteria are what the commission uses to make a recommendation to you all, and the 6 criteria that you will make your decision on this evening. I will run through these relatively briefly. The first is compliance with the city's master plan. The subject property is identified for private recreational uses on our future land use map. The description for the uses in the master plan state that this category includes lands owned by clubs and other private organizations used for private recreational purposes. The country club property has been used for a private club for many decades, and this area has been used in support of club operations. The proposal to renovate the area will maintain and enhance the character of the site, and this area of the city. As noted, the site has historically been used in support of private club operations, which is consistent with the vision statement in the master plan to maintain and enhance the established character of our community. The renovations will enhance the nature of the experience for their membership at the country club. And then finally, maintain the existing land uses. Again, this has been used in support of club operations for many years now. And so this first criteria has been met. Second criteria related to development complying with all applicable city ordinances. As I mentioned, there's no new structures proposed that would need to meet any setback requirements or generate a need for new parking. There's no modification to any existing parking. The request for the gate location and the proposed retaining wall do meet the requirements of our municipal code. There is no known inconsistencies with other city policies or plans. So this criteria has been met. The third is related to the bulk and scale of proposed building structures or expansions thereto. The proposed gate and the wall are consistent with the requirements of our municipal code and the context of the site as a private club. So this criteria has been met. The fourth approval criteria is related to drainage systems and their design. A grading, erosion, and sediment control plan, as well as drainage plans, have been reviewed by the city's engineering consultant, Icon Engineering. They have recommended approval of both documents. Additionally, noteworthy, the project results in a decrease in the impervious area by 32%, which increases the natural area of the subject property. The fifth approval criteria is related to development not resulting in unreasonable traffic congestion or hazards to vehicular traffic. Excuse me. The scope of work does not increase the club membership or club staff. There's no apparent increase in traffic congestion as a part of the application. The access will remain as it has historically, and traffic patterns are expected to remain as they have been. The additional wayfinding signage and gate relocation may actually improve the wayward traffic along the club's entrance on Cherry Hills Drive. This criteria has been met. And the sixth and final criteria is that construction is timed and staged to minimize impacts on adjacent properties. The applicant has communicated that they intend to start construction this spring, assuming approval from City Council this evening. The applicant's provided a construction staging plan that meets the requirements of our municipal code. The applicant is aware of our construction hours and has indicated that they will abide by those hours. Public comment. Early in the application process, there was a lot of public comment that staff received, particularly for those neighbors that are most adjacent to the club. And most frequently, I did have conversations with the owners of 5 and 14 Cherry Hills Drive. In the early process, the application had proposed relocating the access from where it is today and where it's shown on the plans today to along the north/northwest portion of the subject property. The applicant has since withdrawn that particular request. Therefore, it is not a part of the analysis or your discussions here this evening. In the course of those ongoing conversations, as noted in your staff report, the applicant did meet with several of the adjacent property owners and spoke with them, all culminating in just prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last month. Staff did receive a letter of support from a handful of neighbors that are around the subject property and was included in your staff report for this evening. Last month, on December 9th, the commission held a public hearing to discuss this application. They had asked questions related to the intent of the grading, which staff and the applicant were able to respond, is to provide a more user-friendly but still an enjoyable and an experience that their members can value and enjoy. They wanted to discuss the location of the wayfinding signage, in which case staff was able to confirm, as in your staff report, that CDOT has taken a look at that proposed sign location and they don't have any issues with that. There was a question related to the reduced impervious area. If you recall from a few slides ago, there was some red polygons towards the south of the property. That's a result of a couple years ago when the club did their major clubhouse renovation. They had put some impervious surface down for some temporary trailers. As part of this project, they want to remove that. And then there was some discussion related to a potential condition, recommended condition of approval, that any future permanent access along that north or northwest property line would require to go through a public hearing process similar to this evening. Ultimately, the commission felt like that type of condition would be redundant since the code already would require that process. Should the club desire in the future to want to add an access to that northerly portion there, because it is within 100 feet of the property line, they would be required to go through this exact same public hearing process. So ultimately, they decided not to make that a recommended condition. At the end of their discussion, they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the application with no conditions. And that concludes staff's presentation for this evening. However, I'm certainly available for questions. A representative from the country club is here as well to answer any questions. And the recommended motion for you this evening is on the screen in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. So just as a reminder, the way this process works is that we'll have an opportunity for questions for staff. Then the applicant has an opportunity to address the council if they would like. And then there's opportunity to ask questions to the applicant. Then there's the public comment portion. And then we move on from there.
Mayor,
Are there questions for the staff?
I first just wanted to say my husband's a member of the country club, but I feel that I can decide this without undue bias.
Oh, thank you. Yes, any other conflicts or?
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing. My husband is also a member, and so I have spousal privileges. but I feel confident that I can make an unbiased and
Does the rest of the council feel confident? Yes, thank you for disclosing that. Okay. Yes, Councilor Robinson.
So there are a number of mature trees along there. What is the plan related to, is there removal of the trees contemplated? Was that discussed? What is, tell me about what's happening with the trees. please.
Yeah, so there are some trees that are proposed for removal. While those trees in those exact locations are not to be replaced, the club does annually, and this upcoming year does have plans to plant additional trees beyond what's currently out there today. The council may or may not be aware that the city does have a tree mitigation ordinance. It applies in 3 scenarios. The first scenario is with the construction of a new home. The second scenario is the construction of a major addition. So if you're adding 50% or more of your existing house, that's a major addition. Or if we get a permit within 12 months of either of those 2 things. That's when we as the city, our municipal code requires tree mitigation. But as part of the review of the applicant has indicated that it may not be in these exact locations, but they do anticipate planting additional trees during this upcoming planting season.
They're not shown on the diagram though, right?
That's correct. It's my
That was my question. The removals are shown, but
Correct.
not, the new plan doesn't show
Exactly. The
any-
question was where,
trees.
when, and what is the plan
Yes.
regarding replacing them?
Because I had that same exact question, and I do think that it is relevant to the approval criteria, particularly the second, where it talks about application maintains open space in existing well-landscaped areas and view sheds, et cetera, et cetera.
In the planning commission meeting, that was addressed, and they talked about how many trees they had planted in the last year,
Correct.
and also how many, I think they said 50 trees or more that they were planning to plant, but not necessarily in the same area.
Right.
Correct, yeah, and the specifics of that I'll leave to the applicant. I know
can ask
they
that
know
when that
that
comes up.
very,
I also had and we'll have an
yeah.
opportunity for the applicant to present in just a minute, and then we can ask that question of the applicant. One other question, Councilor Ebert, did you have a question for staff?
Well, I was just going to add that when you're talking and we're asking the applicant to elaborate on that, I'd be curious as to what is the caliper of the trees that are taken down versus the ones that have gone back in.
Okay. I had a question about, if you could bring the map, the colored map back up. This little blue spur off into this private lot here, what is that? Yes, that.
my guess would be it's some sort of a leftover access.
Because now it's behind an access gate.
Correct, yeah. Are you,
I actually think it's just a little sidewalk to a gate that they have there.
Okay.
Not
It's a
positive about
pedestrian-
that.
right, so we
but
can ask that
It's
of
just
the
a little
applicant as
sidewalk
well.
to a gate that the,
it's my understanding that property owner may access the club property through a
Okay.
gate there.
Okay, but pedestrian and not like a vehicular easement?
That's my
or-
understanding, correct.
Okay. Because that would be problematic if there's an access gate. But I mean, that's not our, that's private easements, it's not
they have a
our
gate
thing,
from their
but-
yard that connects into that wall,
Yeah.
into that driveway. The red, I know the pad where they relocated the pro shop is that red sort of rectangular, yeah, right there where the blue and the green meet. And then, and I'm just trying to remember, that red line going down, that's a road that kind of bisects where those, or surrounds that island where those trees are, is that right?
That's correct, yeah,
And that's coming out.
correct.
Are they, I thought there was a discussion here that they're widening some road to 20 feet. Is that the green?
It's the green.
That's
what
the green,
is?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Yep.
Yeah, I had a question on the widening too. Has there been an emergency that people couldn't get through? Because I understand it's going to be easier for cars to turn around.
Right.
But is there a need or a concern?
Nothing that came through during the review process, specifically with South Metro Fire.
Okay.
I
Just to be
would
safe.
defer to the applicant if they've had any, but there's been none reported, none as part of our due diligence process through the review.
Past issues. I also was curious, so sometimes it's called a garden wall and sometimes it's called a retaining wall. But it's not listed in the beginning as one of the main things, right? Like it's not, they're widening and they're changing the gate and they're, getting rid of the impervious area, stuff like that, but it's not listed. But yet it is part of this approval. And that's fine. The resident that's closest to that retaining wall, the house that's closest to that retaining wall is not one of the residents that signed the letter. I think that would
She
be
just
11.
recently passed away,
Okay,
B. Toppin.
Okay.
Although I know her son has been involved with the group that signed the letter.
I'm kind of curious. It comes up sometimes in the presentation and other times it doesn't, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I guess it was, right, stating that the grading, right, to flatten it to make it more usable for their membership. You're right, implied is the retaining wall helps them do that by flattening it, but you're right, it could have been called out.
Okay.
What is the height of that wall?
2.5 feet.
2.5.
Okay, any other questions for staff before we have the applicant? None, all right, thank you. Well, now we'd love to invite you to the podium to state your name and address for the record, and you have a presentation you'd like to make, but otherwise you've heard some questions, maybe you could address those things.
Sure, my name is Joshua Hester. I am the Director of Grounds at the Country Club, and really no presentation, just here to field the questions that you have. So if you want to ask those questions again, I'm happy to.
You don't remember them all? Okay, yeah, Councilor Robinson.
Yes, my question was around the removal of the trees. Specifically, it looks like it's around the access road there. The purpose for that, and then what was your mitigation plan?
So the purpose is to create more practice space in that area. So those trees kind of dead in that area. So our architect thought it would be appropriate to have those trees removed. And there's 5 pine trees in that area. I think they're ranging from 10 to 16-inch caliper at breast height trees. So they're some of the more mature trees in that area. They're definitely not some of our taller trees, but the reason is to create more practice space in that area. And then the mitigation factor is, yes, we do try to plant a large number of trees every year, especially with our removal program we have. Now, I don't want to call our club a 1-for-1 club where we remove a tree and plant a tree. That is not our policy as of today. It's very close to that. And actually, this year, we're probably more of a 1-to-2 club this year. So it could be different every year. So we're removing a tree and planting 2 trees because of our need for new tree plantings. Now, in this practice or this short game area, we're not going to put a bunch of trees in that area because it is for practicing your golf game, and the trees really get in the way of that. But there'll be other trees planted in the adjacent area, maybe next to the 10th tee, which is not identified on this map right there, but there'll be more trees to maybe provide more of a private separation from our practice facility, from our championship golf course in that area, or it could be on our short course, which is adjacent it's our far northeast portion of the club property or the clubhouse grounds, or we could put more trees on the championship course, but somewhere in our almost 200-acre property, there will be trees planted throughout. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, okay. And can you confirm what that little spur, is that just a walkway to a gate?
Yeah, so that is a pedestrian access. So that resident enjoys, and it's a convenient access to get to the practice facility or the club. So it's probably no wider than 4 feet, but it's just a wooden privacy gate that they can access the club property from.
Okay, thank you.
And then I just had a question. When you mentioned that somewhere else on the property, the replacement of the trees is 1-for-1 or 1-for-2, what is the general plan of what caliper goes back in when you do a replacement?
So it depends on the area for what we're trying to do. Like this, for example, in about a month, we're going to plant 40 Ganala maple multi-stem shrubs. So that's considered 40, I wouldn't call them trees, but they can grow pretty substantial over time. So that's 40 along a fence that we had to replace this last year due to a felon tree. So there's 40 right there just on a row. Now, when we want to try to do what we consider golf course or specimen trees, we do our due diligence on those. We try to do no smaller than 7-inch calipers. Now, Colorado is an area where you cannot find 7-inch calipers, so we source from out of the state, Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois, to get those larger caliper trees and of good quality from the nursery, or they're certified from their growers. So those are we have a pretty rigorous requirement when it comes to species and caliber of trees.
A little bit different question. When the application mentioned that the area will be landscaped again, and consideration again with the fact that it's a short practice area, but also the other areas that will be landscaped. I think it talks about having some additional turf and some additional flowers or smaller landscaping features. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about some of those, and specifically, is there any emphasis to do low water required plantings, whether it be grasses or the plantings themselves?
So there will be no ornamental or flowers or xeric plants in the short game. It will all be turf type plants or turf type grasses on there, which are conducive to a golf course setting. So when we consider if there's a planting of a shrub in this area, there will not be any water conserving type plant type there. So if you're familiar with golf course turf types, most of them are not water conserving plants. That's just the nature of golf course turf types. Now, with that said, not related to the practice facility, the club itself has been pretty dedicated to converting a lot of their maintained irrigated turf to different turf types, which are fine fescues and tall fescues. And currently today we have over 18 acres of fine fescues and tall fescues in our 200 acres, which on average saves 1 million gallons annually per acre. So we're already on that path, but this area is not part of where we're implementing some of those water-saving turf types.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for the additional tall fescues and water-saving measures around the rest of the course. I guess what I'm wondering is, you may have answered that within the golf industry, it doesn't sound like there are developments towards a turf grass that is less water needy that could potentially be used here?
Not at Cherry Hills, we're not implementing those turf types, but there is research is always working hard to figure out ways and cultivars of new turf types to conserve water. Because to speak in a very biased person as myself as a turf grass professional, we are probably the most water conservative people on the planet when we're trying to conserve the water needs of plant. Because what our priority is playing conditions, and playing conditions equates to very low water usage on any turf type. So we really focus on the little amount of water that's needed on the golf course. But with that said, there's always new research on trying to push and develop new cultivars for water conserving turf types.
So are they out there and available right now?
Yes, they are.
But the club has chosen not to use those.
Well, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase a question like that. So we have a.
We'll not be using those.
We will not be using those, but that is based on, we have 100-year-old turf types that perform very well in this environment. And they have taken 100 years to be developed naturally on their own, and they perform very well with very low water use requirements throughout the growing season.
Okay. And just a comment, when you mentioned there won't be any other ornamental type of flowers or anything in this area, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes, Councilor Hull.
And the plan looks very, very good, particularly given the process that you went through, the lengthy process associated with this. And obviously, this is the plan that we're approving tonight, but I just wanted to ask, this is the final plan, and there hasn't been any discussion about this is approved, and then sometime in the future, you might make some more changes to this area.
No, this is what we call a puzzle piece. So in the future, if say there was another addition to the practice facility, say we were able to acquire adjacent properties or whatever the case may be, this puzzle piece fits in the long-term plan with the club. So there would be no modifications. Now I do maintenance work on the golf course. There's always maintenance. There's always adjustments, or we're always replacing turf due to, losses just because Mother Nature does her thing, and we do our very best to make sure everything is at the standard we expect. But the form that the practice facility is in now, there's a little bit of an organic nature to it, but what you see there, what we're going to put in there, currently the practice facility has one small chipping green, which is the one there at the northeast portion of the property, and that's the only chipping green that we have, or the chipping surface there. We're implementing 3 new chipping putting greens in this area and 7 to 8 bunker complexes. Now our architect will drive the final shape and grade of those, but it's not going to deviate much. He's given what the tapestry has given him naturally. Sure. And there was a question about the garden wall that was in there. That garden wall, I think Paul had mentioned it before about that being more to just give us more usable space or more appropriate space. If you're at that site today, it's got quite a bit of slope and undulation on it, and it's not really conducive to your shots that you make around the championship golf course, if that makes sense to you. So what we're trying to create is more practice shots that you'll see out on the championship golf course, and by adding that garden wall, we're allowed to push some of those grade edges to flatten out the whole space so we can have more appropriate chipping greens, bunker complexes, or just, putting and chipping surfaces around those areas. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yep.
Did that answer the question?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilor Eber.
one question I had in looking at the materials, it talks about on Cherry Hills Drive itself that there's going to be some signage. I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit about that. It sounds like there's going to be, or there has been some discussion with CDOT about placement of a sign to make it so that people know not to go onto Cherry Hills Drive. Is that what I understand?
So it's not really going to prevent vehicles from coming onto Cherry Hills Drive. I think that's going to create some safety hazard if it's put right at the edge of Cherry Hills Drive to prevent vehicles from coming in. That sign's going to be inset onto Cherry Hills Drive, just notifying those lost travelers that this is not the entrance to Cherry Hills Country Club, or this is not the access point to certain residents throughout there, because currently there is a large number of vehicles that get directed by whatever navigation system they're using into our service access, and it creates a real challenge for vehicles to get turned around. As you can see, I don't know, Paul, if you can show where our current access gate is, that can get backed up with 10, 15 vehicles at times, mostly during like celebrations of life when we have a lot of visitors that come to the property, have not been there before. And that road is right next to our practice tee. So it's a pretty big safety hazard, and it also creates a real challenge for those vehicles to get turned around. So our intent was to put the signage closer to University on Cherry Hills Drive, and that also drove the reason why we're moving the gate out to the fork on Cherry Hills Drive, so that vehicles cannot get taken so far into that access area before they figure out they have to get turned around. So I don't know if I answered that question about the sign location, but we considered putting it out there, but I think it created a safety concern by putting it out so close to University and forcing cars to go right back out to University. It's not a great situation if that sign was that close. Did I answer that about right, Paul?
Yeah, yeah. So the image you see down there in the right-hand portion of the image here, it does provide a warning, if you will, to vehicles that turn off of University that, hey, this isn't the primary club entrance. And then it's hard to see on this image, but Cherry Hills Drive is wider between where their proposed gate is and where this proposed sign would be that would allow them to turn around. Whereas currently they head down the maintenance access, and I think it's like 15 feet wide or something like that. And it's hard for them to make a turnaround once they get onto the access road for the club.
Yeah, so you're basically, I'm sorry to interrupt there.
No, yeah.
A vehicle would have to drive onto the golf course turf or the driving range tee a little bit to get turned around, or even back into that pedestrian gate access to the neighbor. That's actually been damaged by wayward drivers because they can't get their cars turned around. It's so tight, and along that north side of that drive is heavily landscaped, so it's pretty tight, and the vegetation can get pretty dense.
Okay, thank you. One question I had, am I right that you mentioned, and this deviates a little bit, but you mentioned it, that is it the short course or something like that is in the northeast corner? So it's basically north and east of Cherry Hills Drive on this map that we just saw?
No, it's right in here. It's over. Yeah, it's right over there. Yeah.
Okay, if you
Yeah,
could go
so
back
north
to the
and- yeah.
map before, or the map before that we saw.
The colored map, yeah.
Yeah, that one
It's
right
up
there, the code map.
there.
I just wanted to ask you real quick, since we're talking, and I have you here. If you look in the right-hand corner there, it says 14-foot bridle easement per Cherry Hills Park. Am I correct? That there is in
Yes.
fact said easement?
That is correct.
And right now, is there anything that is developed as a bridle path along that, or does it just go right from the road into the grass of the golf course?
Yeah, so right there, that's actually some other private residence property. But where the golf course property is, it just goes right from road to grass. And I think that's the same in all the residents throughout Cherry Hills Drive. It just goes from road to their landscaped portion of their property.
Okay, do you know, is that easement part of the Cherry Hills Country Club property? Or is
That-
it-
I don't
you
believe
say
that's
it's
the
part of
case.
private?
That's part of the private, and that is not a public bridle easement. There is a bridle easement, but it is not a public bridle easement.
Private bridal easement.
To whom is, I guess.
For
I
the,
don't-
for Cherry Hills.
There's
Park.
no dedication or acceptance of that. It just names a bridle path in there, and the city never accepts it. It's not dedicated to the city, so it's for the subdivision. Yes.
Like we ran into in other places. Yeah,
Allegedly.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I had one more comment. There was a question about the reason why we're widening that service access in one point. That is per code. So the current width of the side that we're expanding is actually considered a cart path, but we're just expanding that to make sure that the emergency access code is met there. And that is why, because the right side of that hard surface that we're actually removing is considered the current emergency access, and the left side is actually a cart path. So we've eliminated that hard surface on the right and expanding the cart path and thickening it to make sure that it satisfies that emergency access code. And as far as the emergencies we've had in that area, we have had, I wouldn't consider them extreme emergencies, but we have had our security system breached, or that where there's police and fire that do have to access our grounds maintenance facility, which is not shown on that map. But that is the reason why we have that service access through the golf course there, because it leads to our grounds maintenance facility. And that is the reason. And we do have South Metro in there for like 4th of July, whatever. They need to access our facility, and there's hydrants down there they have to hook into. So hopefully that gives you the information that you were looking for on that question as
I
well.
was really thinking
Yeah,
about
thank you.
bigger events, wondering whether there is a place, that people can get, or that emergency vehicles can get through, so that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason for all of that. And like I said, we have a fire truck and a crew from South Metro and even from the Village Police Department that are staged there during some of our celebrations or events, mostly 4th of July, when we do have the risk of a potential fire on the property.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
And I just wanted to say I appreciate you. I know this was a little controversial when the initial drawings came out, the prior application, I guess, or original application. And just appreciate how much y'all worked with the neighbors to get this worked out. I think that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo the comment about appreciating working with the neighbors, number one. Number two, I appreciate the reduction in the impervious areas. I hope that the club will continue to work on that and finding other means to continue to eliminate runoff or, do its effort to conserve the water on the area. And third, I do appreciate the idea that the club is very conscious about its water use. I would hope that the club, as we are encountering climate changes, that in order to be able to maintain its championship caliber, that it continues to investigate and where appropriate, and maybe even if it's not quite equal, but 98% of the way there, move to water efficient turf, because I do know that's probably your biggest use of water at the club. And finally, with respect to tree planting and other vegetation, please continue doing so in replacing tree canopy. As you know, Cherry Hills Village is part of the Tree City program, to the extent that the club can continue to participate in helping us with our tree cover, that would certainly be appreciated. And finally, with the respect of the plantings that go on there, a number of years ago, it was widely held belief, if not fact, that when the club held the championship, a number of vegetation came in from California and places else, and that's what brought in the Japanese beetle to this area of town. Whether it's fact or not, I don't know. But I do know that this area of town, unfortunately, now has a huge Japanese beetle problem, and I would hope that the club takes every effort to make sure that there is no problem with anything that's imported and planted. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And thank you very much. We will move to the public comment portion of the hearing, which I'm imagining is none unless Mary feels very strongly about the application. So seeing none, so I will open the public comment portion at 7:16 p.m. and I will close the public comment portion, at 7:17 p.m. And I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 4, Series 2026, a resolution approving a site plan amendment for renovations to the chipping and putting area located on Lot 1 of the Cherry Hills Country Club Consolidated Plat.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Since it's only a resolution, we just need a voice vote.
Oh, voice vote, sorry. Never mind. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. So thank you very much for your time and best of luck with your project. Moving on to the Parks and Trails map redesign, Manager Black.
Sorry, give us 1 second here to switch the feed. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Yes, tonight we have a brand new Parks and Trails map for your approval. So this is the culmination of many months of work on PTRC's behalf. I really want to thank the commission because it was a long and tedious process, but we have made it through, and I think you'll be excited to see this final product. So the last time we updated the Parks and Trails map was 2009. So it's due for an update. In 2020 to 2022, we went through with PTRC and renamed the trails. If you'll remember, we had a 4-digit numbering system in the past for all of the trails that was hard for folks to follow. So PTRC went through and actually gave each of the trails names and named loops in some cases in the city through that process. So in order to update the map so that it matches what's on the ground, we put out an RFP this spring for the redesign, and Centennial Archaeology was selected through that process. PTRC started working with them in May 2025 and spent the last 8 months really diligently going through the trail system and the map with a fine-tooth comb. So the major updates and highlights are that we have a slightly different map size. So it's going to be a little bit larger compared to the current pocket map, both when it's folded up and when it's spread out. So the size that you have printed on the dais is approximate. It will be slightly bigger than that when it's all unfolded. We have distinguished the Highline Canal Trail from other city trails, added bathroom and parking locations. We've added Quincy Farm to the map, along with insets for Quincy Farm and John Mead Park, the Highline Canal Trailhead at Hamden, really to get folks a more detailed view of the more intricate parts of the trail system. We've updated the legend for clarity. So in the existing map, we just have an unpaved trail designation. In order to help people really understand what they're going to encounter on the ground, we split that into bridle trails, which are grass, and crusher fine trails to distinguish those two types of soft surface. We've also changed the on-street trails designation to on-street connections to really improve people's understanding that you're using a street to get from one park or trail to another. We also made accessibility improvements within the map design. So things like in our current map, we'll just use a different color to distinguish something. In the new map, we'll use two types of difference, basically, in order to show different types of trails, so that maybe if somebody is colorblind and can't distinguish between like a red and a green, the symbol is actually different as well. And finally, just going through and making updates, correcting errors on the existing map. So before we dive into questions and all of the details, I just wanted to say that in terms of next steps, this is really the final approval. PTRC does meet again this Thursday is their next meeting. So if council does need to send something back to them, we'll be able to accommodate that this week. But really the hope is to finalize the map in the next couple of weeks, get it to the printers, and then have them printed in time for scavenger hunt and some of our spring events coming up to really be able to promote it through the spring and summer. So we do have Chair Pressican from PTRC here if council has any questions. And I do have a recommended motion, but I'll leave it on the map because I'm sure that we'll have some discussion.
Yes, so first of all, this is clearly an awful lot of work. And so thank you to the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Commission and to staff in putting this together. The amount of detail is really kind of astounding. And with that said, I was just wondering, I'm sure there are reasons, and I'm sure you know them off the top of your head, but there are some things that are obviously not on the new map, that are on the old map. And I think maybe our previous conversation about the private bridle trail may be the answer to some of those questions. But so starting on the east side, the Charlou trails that are on the old map, and they're not shown there, and they're including the little connector from Charlou Circle to Councilor Fisher's house, which I did think was a public trail. I thought it was noted with a bollard.
It's private.
It's private.
Oh, it's private.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed that when we were talking about the gates.
Yeah, on public
So
trails.
it was incorrectly on the previous map. So I was thrilled to see that it was not on here.
Okay.
And several months ago, the city altered a sign there. So, for example, if there's snow there, the city doesn't clear it or anything. It's just the neighbors.
Yeah, okay.
But we were led to believe that it was because it was.
Yeah, I remember conversations about it when I was on PTRC.
But am I correct, Mayor, that the area north of that previous little red spur on the old trail was marked as a yellow trail,
The on-street trail.
the on-street trail, and now it doesn't have any designation at all?
That's correct. So PTRC really wanted to focus on connections on this map, really to show folks, in areas where there might not be a trail to get there, like Volunteer Park, Councilor Eber, up near you, that there isn't really a trail that connects to it directly. So really wanted to use these on-street connections to show how you would be traveling. Whereas that circle that's on Charlou is
Anybody can walk on the road.
Right. It doesn't really
What's the difference between just a street and an on-street trail?
It doesn't really connect to a different part of the parks and trail system. So PTRZ took a careful look at everything that was labeled that way. And narrowed it down to what makes sense, and I think in some cases might have added additional ones. I would have to double check that, but they
So-
did look at those on a case-by-case
Okay.
basis.
And so I am also assuming that the yellow trail on Cherry Hills Drive, was that removed because it's not a connector, or was that removed because it's not a public trail?
A little bit of both.
Where are
and
you
it's
looking? I'm
definitely
sorry,
not
ma'am.
a public trail because there's no trail there
Okay.
at all, and it's the easement is private.
Okay, it's the Cherry Hills Drive, what we were just, the bridle trail that you just called out on the application.
And that was removed, why?
Because it's a private trail.
And there's no actual trail there. It's just on the street.
Well, but
And it's a private street.
Yeah, combination of factors for that one, for sure.
Well, and I appreciate that, but the comment was made earlier in the presentation that it's a private street and a private easement, and other than that, I don't know that that's legally accurate. We got ourselves in litigation before over whether something was a private bridle easement to a particular neighborhood, and that was highly factual specific, and, I mean, I haven't seen the plat maps that say that they were, I haven't seen the dedication, I haven't seen any of the information, whether it was or wasn't dedicated, or whether it was not part of the accepted plat maps that we've gotten. I have no way of knowing tonight, without a review by our city attorney, as to whether or not that is in fact a private easement that was never accepted or would not otherwise qualify as a bridle path for the city. So I'm hesitant to remove that at least tonight, but I think that not having been privy to any type of that investigation or a report on that, I can't sanction taking that off of the trail map at this point.
So just a point of clarification that I really want to make. So what we're shown as on-street trails on the old map, so anything yellow dotted, and you do all at your seats have a little existing one. Those don't correspond to trail easements. I want to make that really clear. So anything that's a yellow dotted line does not indicate a trail easement. Those yellow dotted lines were added to the map during the 2007 design and then kept during the 2009 update to show, really just to show places that you could take a walk that maybe were quieter streets, and particularly were added to the map because the trails throughout the city are uneven, right? Like there are some sections of the city where we have really dense trails, and there are sections of the city where we hardly have any trails at all. So that effort was made at that point to just kind of show people suggestions to take a walk, but they're just streets. They didn't correspond to any trail easement. So I just don't want to be equating the two in all cases because that's not the case.
That's fair. But then I guess that does further raise the question then of why, I guess I would be curious to understand the discussion around removing Cherry Hills Drive as a on-street connector.
We have done multiple times. We've worked with the city attorney's office. We've hired consultants. This is one of those that has definitely been determined to not be a public trail easement. And any of those, when we went through these processes, we have removed those, including Cherry Hills Park. That's one that we worked closely with consultants and most recently with the city attorney's office. And we've gone through and clarified those as part of the process long prior to doing this.
Right.
So
I appreciate that. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I
Specifically this one though, because there are, it's not really connecting you, like, okay, it's connecting you where you could get on an existing sidewalk. And we also had a brief discussion about the fact that to send people walking down that road, you're sending them into an active golf course. which might not be the best place to send people either, so.
Yeah, but
the
that
decision was to-
doesn't really have, I mean, it's what Jay was saying there, which goes to Rob's issue. The point is that a proper investigation, thorough investigation was done on that particular trail in conjunction with the city attorney's office, and the determination was made that that is not a dedicated trail to the city.
Right, but, sorry, but two separate issues at the same
Right,
time.
but
Yes,
that's- yeah.
That's true, and at the same time, in PTRC's discussion, they didn't want to send people walking down that road either for that reason, so. So for multiple reasons.
But it isn't walking into the middle of a golf course because it's to the south of the practice area and to the north of, I think, a parking lot.
No, it's,
Or-
It's alongside the,
a driving range.
yeah,
South of the par three. And
oh, yes,
the par three do go into the
Weren't you in?
It's north of the parking, it's north of the driving range, and shots from the driving range do go onto that road. It is south of the par three, and there is a hole on the par three that runs along that road, and shots from that do go on the road. I mean, cars go along that road and run the same risk, but it's relatively dangerous walk, can be.
Okay,
I mean, I think it's
the bigger
similar,
issue is
it's
not
similar
a
to
dedicated
Welsher,
trail.
though. I mean, we have a path that comes up right in the middle of Welsher, Highline Canal, comes up right in the middle of Welsher Golf Course, and it is just that small section there, and that does leave, I think this leaves this whole quadrant with basically nothing. And it is a connector that takes you off of state highways.
But it doesn't connect you to there's
Well, and
there's
so-
a paved trail on University, but not on Hampden.
There is here, and then there's a red, on the old map, there is a trail shown to the west of Gilpin Street. And that was another one an unpaved trail, that was another one that I was wondering what happened to that.
are you talking about along Hamden as it drops?
Hampden
Yeah,
Gilpin.
like
down?
right up here.
That
Well, isn't
doesn't
it actually?
actually exist.
Isn't?
It doesn't.
It doesn't exist. Okay.
Yeah, there's no trail or sidewalk there. The wall
Okay.
comes up.
So even though it says there's an unpaved trail on the old map, that does not, it's not
It
true.
was never the case, yeah.
Okay,
But isn't Gilpin on the old map actually labeled as an on-street trail?
yes.
It is.
And now it has no designation at all.
That was the Gilpin to Cherry Hills Drive, that was a yellow on-street trail in the old map.
Right, but if the Cherry Hills Drive piece is really not dedicated and is really private, I could see that the Cherry Hills Drive piece may fall out. But Gilpin Street has been dedicated, I assume.
Well,
And
it's
is an
just a
actual
street.
street. It's an actual
It's just a
street.
street,
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a street.
So why would it not continue to at least be an on-street trail?
because if it's not connected,
it's
so that was
Oh,
the
because
difference.
it's not a connector anymore.
It's not a connector anymore.
Well, that goes, I will bring it up later, but the concept of going to connectors versus on-street trails is one that I don't favor.
But I think an
Because-
on-street trail, every street in the village is an on-street trail.
Well, but I'm not, and I don't mean to disagree again, but here I am disagreeing that
That's fair.
my understanding is that there was some legal significance that preserves an on-street trail as a trail, i.e. if you vacate a street for purposes of a car, if something has been marked as an on-street trail and found to be such that you can vacate for vehicular purpose, but not necessarily for pedestrian purpose. And so, I know that Emily and I have had this discussion before, and she represented to us a couple minutes ago that it was not a legal, my historical memory was that there was some legal significance, and it was actually used as a trail so that in vacating a street, it doesn't automatically take away the pedestrian use of it. So, Again, I think I would like to have that evaluation and get a formal opinion from our city attorney as to whether or not those really are trails or not. And I know city staff's position is that they are not dedicated, they are not formal dedication of trails, they are not formal dedication of easements, but I have a recollection differently, and I would be more than happy to be proven wrong.
So
But-
to make sure I understand, so what you're saying, for example, like Mansfield is shown as in both versions, it's shown as an on-street trail and it's shown as an on-street connector. Your recollection is that not only is Mansfield dedicated as a vehicular road, but there is also some additional dedication of a trail in the same, a pedestrian trail in the same area? Or
I'm not sure if it's dedication or acceptance, but
Well, isn't the situation, I mean, because I think I see where you're going with this, and by the way, it doesn't have to be dedicated. I mean, I think if the city designates part of its right-of-way as a trail, it falls under the change that we made to the charter. The city could not vacate that without a vote of the people, as opposed to a road which has not been designated as a trail. The city could just vacate that without a vote of the people.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
not true?
And that's where I'm ultimately going,
Yeah,
is
that's
that
right.
our
Well,
charter is
it's
out
out
there, and I want to make darn sure before I take away a trails designation that I'm not walking myself into a violation of the charter.
Right, but that's your point, though.
Well, but and let me just, I have not been, I'm just sort of walking on the fly here tonight trying to respond to what I hear. So the charter doesn't define trail. Your code does. But putting that aside, are you positing that the trail map tonight before you serves as a legal documentation of all city property rights for all purposes? Or is this document designed as an illustrative, informational route through for the general public? I mean, I would propose that the latter is the case and that we would not affect any legal interests that the city holds by whatever happens.
I guess the question to you, Counselor, would be, is this, you want it to be the latter, but would that have any precedential value?
No.
Because it has come up in previous legal
It
discussions.
has come up. There was, as part of a 2018 settlement agreement, one of the requirements was to remove something that had been adjudicated a private easement from the map. But that was a result of the legal determination.
Right.
Specific.
Not the map designating what was legal, right? So it was more that people would not be misled in a general trail navigational exercise.
Well, and I thought it was a little bit more than that because, and this is where my Google law degree is failing me, but the adverse possession argument, right?
It is true that there are many ways by which the public can acquire use of property, and one is, yes, the adverse possession concept. It's different on private property than for governments, and we don't need to go into all of those things here. But I don't think you're saying that you want to expand the city's legal interest through this trail map. You're not saying you want to document all of the city's legal interests through this trail map. I don't think that was the intent and purpose, but again, I'm sort of working in.
No, but if
May
they're,
not
so,
have been the purpose,
let,
but it's-
pure hypothetical.
Yep.
And maybe they fully have the right to do it. Cherry Hills Drive's a private road. So in my understanding is that they would be within their rights to decide to prohibit people from walking down Cherry Hills Drive.
Arguably, yeah.
Arguably.
Argument, yeah.
That might be some future scenario where the city might say, whoa, wait a minute. We've used this as a pedestrian trail for 50 years. And you can see here, it's shown on our map, and you can, and et cetera, et cetera. While this isn't a legal document,
Well,
I think that, I just think we need to be a little bit conscious of, what we may or may not strengthen or harm any future argument we might choose to make, based on what's on this map.
Well, in addition, I think there's a situation in terms of communication and transparency with our residents. I mean, if our residents were to look, some of them know, for instance, that there is that charter provision in there that says the city cannot vacate a trail or open space, et cetera, without a vote of the people. And most residents probably, if they were interested in that, would look at the trail map and go, okay, I see the ones that I'm protected on. And they'd be wrong, but I think that's probably
let me
unreasonable.
interrupt. This map says on it, it was created to provide general reference to public trails, parks, and recreation amenities. We've taken every reasonable effort to ensure the accuracy of this information. We're not responsible for consequences resulting from omissions or errors, including, but not limited to, issues of property lines and easements.
That's the old one, though, but,
Yeah, I think they both say it on it.
yeah.
Well, and I will also add, right, I mentioned at the beginning that the charter does not define trail. That amendment to section 3.9 did not define trail. It defined open space and excluded from that all public rights of way, right? Your code defines trail, and give me just a second, in chapter 11.
The point would get sticky if it ever came up anyway, but.
Means any bridle trail, a bicycle trail, pedestrian trail, or recreational easement or area of land that the city owns, leases, or maintains, or in which the city holds rights by grant or operation of law, including but not limited to a high line. So two things on that. One, it doesn't mention public streets, right? So by definition, as existing now, it excludes streets from the definition of trail. Second, that would be.
No, it just
right-
doesn't include it. It doesn't exclude it. It just doesn't include it.
Exclusio unius, what's that? At justum generis, no, it's exclusio unius alterium generis. I don't know the exact Latin, but,
Right.
but the legal construction principle I'm citing to, right? Which is when
Correct.
you enumerate everything, you have not mentioned something. So from just a basic interpretation, and that's just code, right? That's just what your code says right now. So, expressio unius exclusio alterius.
Oh, see, I know you get it.
I
have to let it percolate for a second.
I would just offer from a sort of a administrative side, a staff side. A lot of the discussion that started the transition from an on-street trail to these on-street connections, practically speaking, we had residents coming in bewildered and confused. There's no markings, there's no crusher fines, there's no signs. It's a street. We're trying to make this a helpful customer service document for our residents. And if there are concerns on council that this would sort of set a bad precedent, you could make that argument on all sorts of places. I would offer to you, my recommendation would be to not offer this customer service document anymore to our residents.
Well, no, so I personally like that idea. I like the idea of the on-street connector because, like I said, any street is an on-street trail. I mean, we don't have sidewalks. Everybody can walk down every street. I guess I just was hoping, because I know that there was a lot of detail and a lot of work that went into it. I was curious why the Cherry Hills Drive to Gilpin Street was not left in as an on-street connector. I think that makes a nice loop up in that northwest part of the village. I was also curious why the Buell Lake Trail, which is actually a trail, the connection up to Hamden was removed. The on-street trail part that connects it up to Hamden was removed. And maybe there was just thought around, where we want to encourage people to walk versus where we don't, or what, I don't know. I was asking what the
Just in general.
thought process behind that was.
I have a question, Mayor, but it's about a separate issue, though, if you want to talk about this further.
I don't know, I mean.
Go ahead, okay.
Is there, well, I might just do, is there, so I think we've been given the reason behind the Cherry Hills Drive to South Gilpin Street. I personally would prefer to leave that in, but any thoughts about the Buell connection?
I prefer it to be there. I mean, it's the ability to access. I mean, my question would be, being a private street, do we or don't we have a trail or access to be able to access our trail around Buell and
Well, maybe
even
that's
the
why.
trail around Buell, I guess right now it's in yellow. Does
That
that
is a
mean we
public
don't?
trail.
Pardon me?
That is a public trail.
That is a public trail, correct?
That was dedicated as part of the,
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The yellow in this case in the new map is indicating the surface type.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The yellow on the new map is indicating the surface type.
Right.
That it's crusher fine.
but it's an actual trail.
It is.
I mean, and
Oh,
and it's a
okay, I
public trail.
apologize. So it's not, it is
Around
a
the
green
lake.
trail.
Around the lake.
Correct.
And maybe that's the answer, is that the connector was deleted because that's a private road.
Why was the connector up to Hamden deleted?
Yeah, the
I think is
connector
question.
up to Hamden is
I
a
would
private
have to
road.
go back and check. That is a case where we talked about it at PTRC. It is long enough ago now that I
That-
don't
yeah.
remember. I think we looked at the plat as well to figure out if there was, what was dedicated. And I remember vaguely that there was discussion about encouraging people to go in via the trail system versus maybe going through the gate. Just in terms of like ease of access, so that folks weren't given possibly a hard time at the gate, because it is.
Yeah, but I
it
mean,
is
and
a
that would
public
be,
trail around the lake, but sometimes, at least a few times a year, I get that phone call of people asking.
Are those
I would
roads
have to go
private?
back and look through.
Are the roads in Buell private?
They are private roads, yes. But I would have to go back and read through minutes. I apologize. I don't remember
get-
the entire discussion.
Mayor, are you asking if there are other spaces
I think-
besides this one?
I'm,
Or do you wanna keep
Councilor
on this
Robinson had a different
I have a
point.
different matter,
I do as well,
and want to know the history here. So my district is District 1, which is right there around St. Mary's Academy from the Glenmore Trail to Franklin. The 3 state highways, as we know, that surround the village, Hamden, Bellevue, and University down the middle. So if you look in the middle here, just below St. Mary's Academy, this, you've called it the Academy Trail and the Cherry Trail. They are the same trail, okay? That trail has existed for a long, long time. They come up to University exactly in the same spot, okay? But there is no way to access that without breaking the law and crossing across University. And I myself, as well as my constituents, do that regularly. And they take, and the roads, the people speed down University. You have to look both ways and run across. So I just wonder what's the history of approaching CDOT about access for that pedestrian? Do you agree with my, how I've explained it, that it is the same trail?
I do not agree that it is the same trail. So they were named separately for a reason, and a little bit to discourage folks from playing Frogger across University. Sorry to put it very bluntly.
Well, it's really the only
we have
access from the west side of the village into the main trail system on the east.
Sure.
And so it is used regularly, every day.
Yes, we appreciate that. And it was a long discussion, 2020 to 2022, when PTRC was renaming the trails, how to handle that one. We have explored, I'll let Jay talk more about this in a second, but we have explored putting an underpass in there years ago. There's a pretty significant water line, if I'm remembering correctly, that made that so cost prohibitive that the city didn't pursue it further. And I'm not.
CDOT, we have approached numerous times, and the answer's no. Their whole thing is to keep that traffic moving on University. They won't put in a hawk signal. They won't mark it. It's just too dangerous. And even if there was markings there, people are going 40 miles an hour. They may not see that. They've told us numerous times that they don't want a pedestrian crosswalk there. And so we've heard that for the last 20 years. I've talked to them numerous times. We also did a full depth study, as Emily mentioned. It was very cost prohibitive to do an underpass because of a 60-inch water line that we can't move, or if we did move, would be in the millions and millions of dollars. So the best access on that is to go north or south to the stoplights and take the long way.
With that coming up, and then just given the context of our other conversations about crossings and whatever, and I know, I'm just going to throw it out there, even though I don't have a real idea about what to do, but maybe there's a way to indicate somehow where crossings are versus where they're not. You know, I mean, I don't know that we can add yet another little thing, but you know, like there's a crossing at University in Quincy. There's a crossing at Bellevue. There's a crossing at Hamden. I don't know that we would really have room to show, like, there's a pedestrian crosswalk at Colorado and the High Line. There's a pedestrian crosswalk at Quincy and High Line. There's a pedestrian crosswalk down at Holly.
Oh, you mean show it on the map?
Yeah, maybe that's just adding too much,
A
but
big red circle with the
a big
lines
red
through it.
circle with "Don't cross here." I mean, I don't.
Or if you put a trail sign at that intersection that says crossing prohibited here, go north to Quincy, go south to Bellevue.
Well, we certainly could do that, but I think it would be, I mean, at a first glance, I would say it's not obvious because this little intersection is so tiny. It is not obvious that you can't get across there, and it kind of looks like you could.
This one more than all the other ones.
More than all the other ones,
that are on
that
the map.
one.
So I do wonder, on the map, maybe there's a way you could even put text in, not a crossing or something.
Yeah, or something right
Right?
there, because
I
it
think
does.
and I do think the idea of maybe putting a little sign out on both sides of the roads indicating, you know, not to be so negative where you say, don't cross the street, but you could also then say, crossing is located here to help you out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how difficult that would be or helpful, but it's not a bad idea.
I think it would be helpful to put a sign there that said, don't make me estimate, but this distance, you know, had this distance to cross at Quincy and University.
Yeah, I think those are, but I do.
And if they have questions, they can
some
call
kind of indication on that map that it doesn't
Councilman
go
Robinson.
through.
Yes, we have looked at that spot numerous times.
Is that right? So there's no way?
There's no wiggle room.
Because that's such a frequently used, and people are just not going to do it. Adds an extra mile to their walk, right?
God forbid you get some exercise on your walk. No, we understand, because it's come up numerous times, and, you know, we've done our darndest to try to, and because of the school zone and so many factors, CDOT is like, we're not going to, you know, encourage a crossing here.
I guess I've always heard about the university underpass idea. I never fully understood that was where it was. I always thought it was at Quincy, and I'm like, why? But anyway.
Yeah.
Councilor Heller, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, just one quick question. It's about parking. So if you look at Quincy, just east of the canal, it's marked parking, but west of the canal, that's on the north side. On the south side, just west of the canal, everybody parks there. It's kind of looks exactly the same, but it's not marked parking. So what's the difference? It's not marked no parking either. So this may be the only place where there's on-street parking, but what is the rationale?
So what's shown on the map is designated parking. We have signs there, PD has signs there, not to leave your valuables visible in the car. On the south side of Quincy, west of the High Line, is not designated
But it's
parking.
still legal to park? Because people do it every
I
single day.
I can't speak to that as not the code enforcement officer.
Yeah. So west of the canal now, on the south side, people park there all the time. It's not,
No, right?
no.
I think it's a lot of the contractors in conjunction with that house that's under construction.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like.
But it's still
Kent's
east of Colorado. That's what confused me, yeah.
It's that little stretch right there.
So I'm just wondering what the differentiation is, and I guess it's apparently legal, but just not designated parking is the answer. Correct. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that distinction, but, okay.
I'm a little confused. So that P that you're talking about, just west of the Highline Canal at Quincy, that's on-street parking, or is there a lot?
There's a pull-off.
It's like a gravelly
So you
area
stay-
between the road and the bollards.
Yeah,
It's-
so
but
you
it's
stay
on-
parallel.
It's basically on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
street.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like a gravelly shoulder.
It looks very different. It doesn't look very different at all than the west side on the, yeah.
I think the difference on the west side is the right-of-way amount. We have plenty of right-of-way. We have plenty of right-of-way to the north side on the farther east there. That where cars are parking on the south side is probably outside of the right-of-way, so we wouldn't put signage up there that you could park on private property or off of the right-of-way.
Okay. Or maybe it's dangerous. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't know.
Other questions or comments? Yeah, Counselor Fisher.
So yes, I do have a question about the box that says where there's parking in restrooms and so on. That little, I think it's the southeast corner of Quincy and Holly that, Denver Water worked on for so long. One of the only things I heard, because that's my director district, one of the only things I heard was, when are they going to bring that water back? I didn't know they had brought that water back. Are you sure that water is back? So people used to love it for their dogs, is what I've heard.
Yeah, so that water fountain broke and we had ordered a part that was back ordered for ages and ages and ages. And then once it was under construction, also that obviously had to be shut off. So yes, that water has been on and off and on and off for quite a while. It's off now since it's January, even though it doesn't feel like it. But it will be back on come spring. So,
Okay.
yes.
I wanted to make sure that.
Yes. It will be
It'll be back
accurate
on.
going
Okay,
forward.
thank you.
And one comment, and this may just be a factor of how these are printed. In that box, like the schools, I can't see that at all. And it might just be that this is a proof. The legend, the map legend.
the other-
Like, obviously, the colors on the map, I can see that it's sort of a yellowish, but particularly in the legend, I can't see that at
Yeah,
all.
and we'll make sure, so, this is your parks manager printing this through a printing
Okay, yeah.
company. So this isn't really the Z Card company's printing of it. So we'll work with both our cartographer and the printing company to make sure that those stand out enough. This is just me getting it printed somewhere.
Yes, I
apologize.
figured. Other comments?
I really love it. I think it's terrific, so thank you. I was really, really looking forward to this. Thank you.
And I love the QR code, and it works. I just tried it.
Excellent, 'cause that is one of my biggest fears, that we print 1,000 of these and it does not work.
And with that being said, making sure that the QR code is set up in some way that it can be modified over time?
So it will always lead to the same pathway. The same website. The reason that we used a QR code for public art rather than putting public art on the map is because we have art on loan, it changes. Sculptures move sometimes. We've relocated permanent sculptures. So we did that to make it dynamic. It does always have to link to the same web page. So we can update that web page, which is the public art page right now. But there's no... let me say it this way. There's no secure way to make it.
To be able to change the URL?
Yeah.
Oh, you never know. Like, I can tell you, the number of times we have printed QR codes on things and for whatever reason, the URL changes, the website changes, and you're not able to, you move the URL becomes case sensitive for some reason. You just never know. And once you've printed a gazillion maps, if something happens and that URL breaks, you're locked into it.
It is.
Stickers on during council.
Yeah. I mean, I've run into that problem at least 5 times.
It is a link to our own website, so we would be able to, if we needed to do a redirect, for example, we can do that within our own website. So even though the QR code isn't changing, we can change where that URL goes to in our website.
Yeah.
If that's helpful.
Mayor,
There's no way
Probably.
to change the QR code itself after printing.
No, there are
Basically, it's
some
gonna go-
services that allow you to change the URL but you have to then pay for the service. It's not just a plain QR code generator. And I don't know that we want to get tied up and married to that on an ongoing basis either. Anyway, that's just a thought.
Mayor, if I can. I want to go back to where, we had talked a little bit about the Gilpin, Cherry Hills. We talked a little bit about Buell Mansion area. I've got a number of other areas that I have questions about and just want to understand. And that is where Commissioner Robinson mentioned that back on his district where they cross University. To the west and a smidgen to the south of that, we have a connector coming in from Clarkson, and then it makes a hard right turn to the south on whatever street that is.
Layton or,
Layton?
yeah, Layton turning onto Franklin
On the old
or
map,
Lafayette.
on the old map, there was a couple of dots that go to the north that are no longer there. Is that Franklin there?
Yeah.
Franklin. And my understanding is that neighborhood, don't they have like a Halloween parade up and down Franklin, or is it one of the other streets?
It's Lafayette.
Pardon me, Lafayette? Okay. Well, I guess my question then is it just that the old map had a couple of dots to the north that we just cleaned up by making it not go north of Layton Street?
Yes, that was really just a cleanup. I don't think those dots were originally supposed to be included,
Okay.
since they just stop.
Okay, my next one that I want to ask about is just to the east of there, where the trail east-west is the Woody Hollow Trail, and then it continues north as the Woody Hollow Trail, but in the old map, it's actually labeled as a real trail, and now here it's in yellow. Is that again because of the
Surface.
the surface of it?
Yeah.
Because I think my bottom line point of this is that's confusing to me, because a lot of our trails are either dirt or crusher fines, but I would just prefer that north-south section be in green again. And the same thing with the trail around Buell.
But it's not a grass trail.
Yeah.
It's not a
Grass
well,
trail.
is
There,
The
in the new
colors are-
map, the color is
it's a
the
crusher fine
surface.
trail.
Yeah.
I see. What you've actually done is, but it is designated as a trail. It's just a crusher fine trail.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So we have unresolved about Gilpin and Cherry Hills Drive. We have unresolved issues about Buell. I want to now go over to the area east of Colorado Boulevard, northeast of Three Pond Park, that none of those north-south streets, Bel Air, Birch, Claremont, Cherry, that go from one connector street down to another connector street, which then goes to a actual trail, are labeled as connector trails. And this is my difficulty with connector trails, is that everything can be a connector trail, especially in this area around there, because they all go between two connector trails, connector routes. I won't call them trails, even though they serve that purpose.
Well, Dahlia actually has a sidewalk. It's not exactly a trail, because a trail would imply public ownership, but it is a paved walking surface.
Wait, you're talking about Birch, Claremont, Cherry, and Dexter?
And
talking about
Dahlia,
any of
and all of
those
those.
between
None of
Dahlia
those
and
are
Dahlia.
indicated as a connector trail on
Right, that's
either
what
of
he's
them.
saying. They're,
It's this,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I guess that would seem to me like that should be labeled as connectors, but then, you get into this situation where you could say the same thing that all of Cherry Hills Farm with the interior circle could also be labeled as a connector trail because it connects out onto the trail, either the Cherry Trail. I don't believe it connects onto the Glenmore Trail, but I do know that down in that north central area, you can go where that little dam is on the north side of Cherry Hills Farm and access the trail, the Cherry Trail. So, you could say the same thing about all of that circle area in Cherry Hills Farm should be a connector trail.
Well, every single street in the village should be a connector trail under that.
Well,
And
but
maybe we take the connector trails out.
Well, that's,
But
yeah.
that at
and
least goes directly next to a trail. I mean, if you're gonna say that the connector trail in and over in El Camino, it is a connector trail, then so too would be the loop around Cherry Hills Farm. I'm just trying to get consistency. I'm
Yeah,
not
I understand.
trying to
Yeah.
argue yes or no. But if you're gonna call something a connector, then, and you wanna make it directly connect to something, then I would argue that that one is left out. I already talked about the one around north of Oxford and around Three Pond Park. I wanted to talk in the southeast part of the district, south and east of Blackmere Common, where the Holly Trail meets the Holly Trail. And that is in the old map, the east-west trail stays as an actual trail all the way up. And then the north-south piece is also considered an actual red dash trail. And now it's been marked to being only a trail connector.
which is accurate. So there's no trail in that corner piece in reality on the ground.
Walking on,
You
you're
walk
walking
on the
Fairfax.
You're walking on.
On the road. There's no separate trail in that section. So the original map was in error in that small corner.
But that, to Mayor's comment earlier, has for a long time been now used as a trail. And so.
Sure, but what we're trying to show on the map is what folks are going to encounter on the ground. So part of the reason for this update was accuracy and accessibility, right? So knowing what type of surface you're going to encounter, for example, is important when you're heading out to use the trails. So we really wanted to make sure that this was as accurate as possible.
What if
So reflecting what is actually going on when you're walking out there.
what if instead of calling it on-street connection, we just said public street?
If I can give a little bit of background, because this was a long conversation with PTRC over multiple meetings, right? Figuring out what to call these was a headache, frankly, because we did that. Do we want to just call them public streets? We went through quiet streets. We went through a huge list of names brainstorming. PTRC settled on not calling them public streets or quiet streets because we would label everything public streets that are public, to Councilor Eber's point. And then quiet streets we weren't really comfortable with in the end either because it wasn't really based on traffic counts. It wasn't really reality. So on-street connections was what was settled on. There was also an effort to keep this, to stay true to parts of the original map that people are familiar with, and again, to show people routes to get to, for example, a volunteer park that doesn't have a trail leading to it. However, bringing it, I mean, we can talk about this at PTRC this week if council would like. Maybe we remove the on-street connections, because to that point, you can walk on any public street in the village. It's not limited to just what we're showing you on this map.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets a little ridiculous when and all of these 17 streets could connect these. I think if there's just a way to say that the on-street connection is a public street that you can use to, I mean, maybe it's more than just 3 words, easy connection to get between the trails. It's not that we're showing every single possible way you could get from one trail to another. These are options that you can use. But I think it gets ridiculous if you suddenly start marking every single street as a on-street connector. But I understand what you're saying, Rob. I mean, they are all.
Well, I actually think
it's not helpful.
I think that is easily solved. I do think Dahlia should have something. It has a sidewalk.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that should be purple, even though it's not technically a trail. It should be a purple, and that is the recommended connector. I mean, you obviously you can walk wherever you want, but
Right.
if you're looking for a, I think that, and then I think that addresses that. I think I appreciate the level of the conversation, and I appreciate the effort that was made to kind of discern, and it's very subjective, and so the line may be different for different people, but to try to indicate these are the connections that actually take you somewhere else versus the ones that don't. For example, I don't know that Village Road needs to be shown as a connector when Meadow Trail is just right there, but I'm fine with it being there because I know a lot of perspectives went into it. I think we should add something along Dahlia. I personally would like to see Gilpin and Cherry Hills Drive come back. I think we should leave Buell off because that's a private road, and I don't think we should be encouraging people.
But again, I don't know if that is private for purposes of being able to access or not.
Buell Mansion is definitely private.
Well, but
So is Cherry Hills Drive.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify.
the question is it private or an easement? And as Councilor Heller just said in my ear, has use basically gotten to the point where that is considered in Buell to be a easement that people have used for the requisite period of time, even to be adverse, or did they even intend for us as part of their dedication when they, yes, it's private in Buell, but maybe they always anticipated, and I'd have to look at the Buell plat map, but maybe there was an easement to allow access to the Buell Lake Trail. I don't know.
Well,
Well, there is, and it's from the village trail
Well, but
down
my
here,
question
but-
is that the only one?
Right, and that's over
Yeah.
private roads as well, is the point. So is there one also that goes to?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the question.
Well, no,
I
the
think we
Bear
need to
Buell
have-
Lake Trail, those are public trails. Dedicated public
The
trails.
Village Trail is correct, but, whether it's.
And Buell Lake
No, the
Trail.
Buell Lake Trail.
And the Buell Lake Trail, but
But you can't get to that Buell Lake Trail around the lake without going on Buell private streets. That's where part of the right-of-way is.
No, I don't think that's true.
No, you can take.
The Buell Lake Trail right here is a
the
public
Village Trail.
yeah, you can get to Buell Lake off of the Village
south.
Trail.
From the south, but
But my
not from
question
the-
is, did, at the time Buell was platted and we accepted their subdivision, did they include any kind of an easement from the north end of the trail? I don't know if they did, I don't know if they didn't. They probably didn't, but I don't know. So if you're asking me tonight to say we don't have access to Buell from the north, or frankly from the east entrance, the entrance on the west, I don't know. I would like to just firm those things up. I guess what I'm proposing, whether it's Buell or the Gilpin, or frankly, the comment was made earlier that this doesn't show every easement that we have. And back when we worked, I think I remember Assistant City Attorney, I think it was Josh Marks, gave a presentation to us about certain things and said, this is why we kept some things off the map. I disagreed with it then. I disagree with it even more strongly now. But the fact of the matter is as another example, is the west side of Devonshire, east side of Buell. It's not shown on here, but there is an easement that goes between the village trail up to Hampton. In the plat map for Devonshire, there is either a 12 or a 14-foot easement on all the edges, all the interior edges. I don't know about Hampton, but all of the west, east, and south side, there is an easement for equestrian use. And yes, all of those houses on the west edge of Devonshire have built their fences all the way to the property line. But there is an equestrian bridle trail. It has never been, and Emily and I talked about this before the meeting began tonight. And the comment is this trail map really to show, even though it isn't meant to have legal significance, the developed uses of our trail system that are safe to use easily? Because I posited to Emily earlier tonight that if I had a horse and wanted to ride from the village trail north to Hampton on that west edge of Buell, even though there's fences, I could knock them down because they're blocking a dedicated easement, and that I could go up to Hampton on the west edge of Buell.
Isn't that the question,
Can't
Rob?
actually do that.
Is there a dedicated easement there? I also
Yes,
think-
there is. It's in the plat map of
But this is
Buell.
reality, built out reality. I think that is, I understand your argument, and if there's an easement there, I'm inclined to agree with you that maybe that's something we need to pursue. But we can't have a map showing people that they can walk
I
places they can't.
think you need to have a map that shows the dedicated easement, but you say it's not a developed, usable.
I think that's a different map. That's not a map you hand out to the public.
But I think this is showing the trail system in Cherry Hills Village.
To the public, that, I mean,
And
this
the
is
fact of the
something,
matter is, that is a public trail usable for bridal purposes.
but it's
and
not a
pedestrian
trail, Rob.
purposes.
It's fenced off, it's not a trail.
It's only fenced off because the owners of the property have been allowed to fence it off.
That's fine, but it is fenced off. And so I couldn't, tonight, I couldn't pick up this map as a citizen of Cherry Hills Village and go walk there.
You could, but I am telling you that I, as a resident of Cherry Hills, could take my hammer and knock
I don't
that
think you
fence-
can, I don't think you can
and I could knock
destroy
that fence
private
down.
property. I think the
could-
city can do that.
Then I could petition the city for injunctive
Fine.
relief that I get to walk on that trail.
I appreciate
And
that,
I
but
don't
that
want
is
to
a-
mark something off of our trail map that violates the city charter, because that's taken away.
No, it's not, because
not
this is
taking away
not a
anything.
map of all publicly owned land. This is a map of where I can go walk today.
This map wouldn't prohibit the city from going and doing that if the city decided to do that.
Yes.
Mayor, can I
All this
make a
map is
suggestion?
saying is here are trails that you can walk along. It's not saying there aren't other trails. There might be other trails. There might be other easements. But it's saying these are ones that you can walk along, and here are different ways to get there.
Well, I mean,
It's just a guide
Yeah,
Can we
Councilor
for
just-
usable trails.
Can we separate the two thoughts, maybe? This is
Yeah.
just a guide. I'm comfortable with it as just a guide. And if there's research to be done on where there are easements that have been interfered with or the like, that seems like a separate effort. By the way, I do think you're wrong, however, Mayor, I never uttered those words. To get from the village trail to the Buell Lake is on their private roads.
I don't think
right
that's
next to
true,
private
actually.
roads.
Sorry, if I can just
Yeah.
jump in. So we were able to double check and refresh my memory and check the plat as well. So there aren't separate easements or anything along those private roads on Buell for the public to access, which is why we ultimately removed the on-street connection, because they're private roads. So we wanted to encourage folks to use the very clearly public easements from the south. So
But yeah, but that's what we're talking about with Counselor Heller, is that southern Buell Lake Trail is in fact a public dedicated trail easement.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
So you're not walking on private roads there.
I've been trespassing for a very long time.
So in
No,
terms of what
You're not trespassing.
It's on the road, though. It's not, there's not a trail adjacent to the road. It's on whatever that is, Lynn.
Well, okay, so I see what you're saying. It's an on-street connection surface.
It is. It's very short, but there's no way to get to that lake without going.
Oh,
under.
yes.
And that's why I wonder if it
You-
doesn't exist to
yeah.
get to Hamden as well.
Yeah, there's an easement over the street to the south.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it is shown as green on this map, which is
So-
grass.
It's mostly, you're on the street for like, I don't know, 5 steps. It's quite short. So we could put a black dot there, maybe. But I don't know that there's room to do that.
Well, but I mean, for the purposes,
there's one
again,
to the
separating the legal dedication from the
Yeah, you can stay off
use,
the street.
If it looks like you're walking on the street, then it needs to be labeled as an on-street connector so that people aren't looking for some paved pathway over here that doesn't exist, right?
Except that on-street connector implies a public road, and it's not a public road.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Show me
No, it
another-
doesn't.
show me another
On-street
one.
connection doesn't imply public at all.
No, show me on here.
Well,
Say
I
on-
think Cherry Hills Drive should have one. There's nothing in this that says public on-street connection. It just says on a street. And it's a surface, not a ownership.
So just to,
Yeah, it doesn't say public, but the implication.
But the implication, when you look at it, that's what it is. And in fact, one of the things I was wondering about is that should, in fact, because everything else they can walk in here, and like Susan said, I mean, just because it's an on-street connector, you can walk on any of these streets, other than Buell, Cherry Hills Park Drive, and Glenmore. And should those roads be designated a different color to go, those are not public. You can't go there. You can't walk there. Yeah.
Well, on Cherry Hills Drive, and there might be
No,
other private,
Cherry Hills.
Cherry Hills Drive over here is a private road.
Cherry Hills Park and Cherry Hills.
Cherry.
Cherry
Cherry
Hills
Hills
Drive right here.
Park.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Cherry Hills Drive. I was thinking of Cherry Hills Farm. Yeah,
all of them.
sorry. Yep.
Mayor, let me see if I can jump in here for a
Yeah.
second. We've had an awful lot of discussion, obviously, with me leading a lot of it, but everybody's had some questions. I guess the question is we've taken a long time to get here. Are we just not quite ready for prime time yet? That we need a executive session on whether or not Gilpin, Cherry Hills Park, Buell on the north, a couple of our other areas are really not public trails that we would lose in an argument on if somebody wanted to deny that. And then also maybe a discussion to try and clean this up, some of this up a little bit. That, one of the things, as a final exclamation point for me at least on this is I've waited a number of years, or I've been talking for a number of years about this trail on Mansfield between Colorado Boulevard and Dahlia. I plan to raise it as one of our topics during our executive session, or not our executive, our retreat session coming up. But, I hate to come out with a trail map that we hope to use for many years if we're going to do something as quickly as in this next year to actually formally designate a trail between Colorado Boulevard and Dahlia on the north side. I know that a couple of residents have had discussions with Jay about that, and Jay has opined, at least to that resident, and it's hearsay to me, so that sounds like a great idea. There's some houses that do have a little bit of landscaping in there, but much of them don't. And Mansfield, 10 years ago, we looked at Mansfield as being the widest street in the village, and some traffic concerns and some speed concerns, and there was a lot of argument about narrowing Mansfield and incorporating a trail along Mansfield. With Brave Church coming along with the traffic impacts that that'll be spilling over onto Mansfield. You know, I think it's high time that we get behind this idea of whether or not, you know, a decision once and for all about a trail along the north side of Mansfield. And I'm going to raise it during our retreat. I'm not asking you to opine upon it now, but in the very next year, after we just print a brand new map, that may change. Some of these other things we don't know the answers to. I just think that it's, at least for now, premature for us to make this final.
Sorry.
In that vein, I guess I would move to table the discussion further until we know some of the answers that we have raised tonight. I move to table it for, I don't know, till March, because that's after our retreat session.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? Hearing none.
I move to approve the updated Parks and Trail map and authorize staff. Well, let me back up for a minute. I move to approve the updated Parks and Trail map.
Just flat out, just approve it, period, not with any changes.
Correct.
Is there a second for that?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, it's motion and second. And not even any of the changes that have been
Can I ask
discussed.
a question?
Yeah,
before
me
we
as
vote on
well.
that? So I think there's been some suggestions here, like the purple dot and some other things that would clean up the map. I'm okay with this recommended motion. I want the staff to make necessary corrections, and I think spending a week or two to look into some of the concerns that were raised in Cherry Hills Drive, all that makes sense to me. I think that a lot of work has been done on this, and it is, I think, 98% there, and we should approve it and authorize the staff to look into these issues and use their judgment and print this map. I view it as a tool for our citizens to recreate in the village. I don't view it as a legal document that has an impact on property rights. I view it as very helpful. I'm just looking at it here and saying, oh, wow, I haven't been on that trail. I'm going to go on it next weekend. So I view it in that light, that this is helpful to our citizens to enjoy this beautiful place that we call home. And I like overall what it is, and so I'm comfortable with this language. I think there are some changes that could be made.
Well, so let me clarify for a second, though. The motion on the table is to approve it as is. And there has been discussion around changes that I believe there was consensus on, like something to indicate that you can't cross over here, making a purple line along Dahlia because there's a sidewalk there. There were some changes that I thought were, and those are not reflected in this motion.
I'm willing to amend my motion to make specified changes, but I don't want any necessary corrections. I think that language is too broad, given the discussion that's gone on tonight. I think we'll have disagreement about what that means.
I was just going to make a comment and just go, I mean, and most of what you said, I agree with Doug. First of all, tremendous work going into this at this point in time, and it is a service and something that would be helpful to our residents. And putting aside the broader issue, and I agree with what Dave said, they're separate issues in terms of evaluating, easements and what have you versus this. But I did hear a number of discussions about things that they wanted to change or wanted to, and I guess I'd turn to Emily and I'd say, do you think you know what you'd change based on the discussion here? Does staff think that you know?
Yes,
I'm
I
actually
do.
going to request
I
that
think we
city
need to
council make motions on an individual basis that would allow this language to actually work. So authorize staff to make any necessary corrections prior to printing that council has identified. You do that through an amendment to the motion or however you want to do it, but I would request that council, because I don't think on any one of those issues there was necessarily unanimous consent, so you probably.
That's where I'm going. Do you, I mean, I
let's
agree with
specify
that
it.
if we did that, but do you guys have the direction that you need from council? Have you heard?
No.
Because I couldn't do it.
No.
And I admit that I wasn't maybe as listening as
Well,
intently
let's
as I
start
should
with
have been.
Emily's notes.
Sure.
Let's start with what Emily was.
And just to give a little bit of context, I worded happy to obviously adjust the motion however necessary. I worded it this way because even, with how many eyes we've had on this map for so long, we have found like tiny errors, whether they're a spelling error, whether we want to adjust where a street is. I have a note, there's a label that says Oxford Trail on Oxford Lane that needs to not say trail. So small things like that is the reason that I worded the motion this way.
And we
Just
haven't
to
even talked
provide-
about page 2. I mean,
Just to provide that context. So the items that I have definitively to change indicate that there is not a crossing between the Academy Trail and the Cherry Trail, whether we do that with text, symbology, find a good way with our cartographer to make that clear. Show the sidewalk along Dahlia. And those, I think, are the only two that council has universally agreed on. I have other notes, but.
Also,
those
the
are the only-
Buell Trail Lake, that should be a purple dot there.
So
We're
we
just-
double checked that on Google Maps, and it does, you can leave the street, well, you can never enter the street, basically. You can stay on a grass trail
Yeah,
separated
there's a
from,
There's a fenced trail there. Most people choose to get on the road, but
Yeah.
there is a trail easement fenced to the west of the road for the entire length.
that is grass, so that is actually correct.
So no crossing at the Academy and Cherry Trail, and show the sidewalk on Dahlia.
Yes.
And then what would you call, and minor labeling and Scrivener errors. I knew there was a word there. So is the process for me to amend my motion?
Or you could just vote on this.
I think
Okay,
what would be
withdraw it?
easiest is if you withdraw and then make a different.
You could just vote that one down. Because we
Yeah, we
we
could.
now have a second, right? So
Yeah,
just
we do.
vote it
Okay,
down,
so-
keep it clean.
Hate to vote down my own motion.
All in favor of approving the map as is?
Well, are we going to have discussion?
Okay, yes, there's a motion and a second.
So you just ask in favor or not?
Well,
there's
there's been a request for
You
discussion.
can have discussion. Again, there are substantive legal questions out there as to whether or not designating something as a trail, an on-street trail, makes it a trail. We don't know the answer yet. There are legal questions out there about Gilpin and Cherry Lane. There are legal questions about whether or not at the south end in Covington, along, I think it's Jackson Street or whatever it is, there's an undeveloped, whether or not these other easements that have not been developed. There are legal questions about whether or not putting them on our trail map is one of the factors that a court would look at, notwithstanding the disclaimer language that says that we have abandoned any interest in those. I'm not in favor of coming up with a trail that can potentially, until I get the definitive answer in an executive session, I'm not voting for a map that leaves those questions unanswered. I'm also not inclined, and I think you should be in the same situation, fellow members, that you should not vote for a map that potentially impedes on our charter. I know for a fact that the day after this is adopted, you will hear from the author of the charter amendment saying that we violated it. And she plans to do something about it. And that's not a threat, but that's pursuant to my understanding of what the author of the charter believes is the contents of the charter. Now, with that said, that is a comment made in discussing this. You can choose to vote as you want, but I'm telling you, with the legal questions that are out there, There's no way I believe we should be voting to approve this right now.
Just a question of, Mayor, Rob, Karen and I, we're not understanding what you're saying, Rob. Basically, about that somebody's going to file a charter complaint and so on. That is all Greek to us. So can you explain that, please?
And I can defer to Mayor.
Well, so there was a charter amendment 4 years
4
ago?
years ago.
4 years ago. So 3 years ago, right? That prohibits the city from vacating or otherwise transferring, selling
Directly or indirectly.
open space, and it does mention open space, trails, parks.
The city has a property interest.
Without getting.
Without a vote of the people.
Without a vote.
Okay, and just as background, that was primarily centered around Quincy Farm, but not, or I guess that was the
Impetus.
impetus at the time, but it was a broader point of public land is public land, and you can't get rid of it without a vote of the people.
And it was.
And also I would say, and since I was kind of involved in that charter amendment, and I agree with it, it would come to the surprise of the author of what our city attorney said tonight. It would come as a surprise that in fact our trails, it just can be interpreted that they aren't really trails.
No, I don't believe I said that, but look, I'm happy to engage in further offline discussion about all of this. I'm saying trails were not defined in your charter. They are defined in your code. That's an ordinance that can be changed. I guess I have to say, so that I can help you and give you the advice that may be required, I too would like to understand how approval of this map would violate this charter, which requires a vote to convey, transfer, pledge, or vacate, or grant any of those parks, trails, and open space. I don't understand what the complaint is. Maybe we can talk offline about that. This is the first I've heard any of this tonight. So I'd like to
I
know
don't think
a
a
lot
map
more.
can vacate or transfer
It
property.
cannot, you can't, no.
There's no
A
conveying
vacation has to
language
be
in it.
by ordinance, and per your charter, it now has to be by a vote. It's not a conveyance, it's not a deed, it's not a pledge, it's not a transfer. So I'm confused about what the precise legal arguments and questions are. I would like to be illuminated on those points.
Well, the one legal, and so I hear what you're saying, Rob, and the place where I am inclined to agree, just given past experience with public-private trails, et cetera, and the appearance on the map, that is my concern about removing Cherry Hills Drive and Gilpin. I mean, Gilpin's obviously a public road, but
Just for clarification, are you saying that it is theoretically possible, and maybe more than theoretically possible, maybe probable, that this map serves as evidence of public use?
yes.
And that therefore there has been an expansion of the city's property interest in that particular piece of
Yes.
property for the limited purpose of recreating thereon?
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said.
Okay.
Those were my exact words.
That's great. We're
Well, and that
mind-melding
is exactly what I said in the beginning when we talked about
that's the
the
one
other
place.
ones, when they were listed as trails and they changed to connectors, that they had that very argument that by being designated and used as an on-street trail, they had gained additional significance, that taking that away would be used as evidence that they no longer are considered to be trails. So again, I don't want to get in that argument right now. That's why, frankly, I moved to table this for 2 months to get the right answers so that we can refine all of these things, so that then we can have a unanimous response. I am not in any way saying this isn't a dedicated effort to try and show people where they can recreate and on what surfaces they will be recreating. It is the secondary impacts that I am very, very hesitant to approve of because of that may harm this village in a big way later on if we
So
adopt
just for
this.
clarification, Counselor Eber, are you saying that streets that have always been public streets, on which people can walk, their public rights of way, that by designation on the map, arguably, there's an additional property right granted when it's that public right of way has already been held in public trust for public use, basically on a fee, almost a fee basis? I want to, maybe we can table that, but I'm still not clear on what the arguments are, and I would like to have further discussion.
Yeah,
Well, and that's exactly, all this discussion that you would like to have, and I think I would like to have, and it can be handled by a table for now and an additional executive session a mere 60 days from now so that we can resolve all this map and get it printed so that everybody can use it.
Could we, and Council, I think you said it best. I understand the issue he's raising. I don't understand what the law is relative to, does it afford more property rights by saying that there is a trail easement, if you will, over a fee ownership of a street, because the street can be vacated, but the trail cannot without a vote of the people. So does that or does that not create a greater property right? If it doesn't, then it's a moot issue, right? But if it does, so it's the legal answer I think we're looking for.
I think it's clear from what the city attorney, it doesn't create another property right. My whole thing is saying, hey, the disclaimer's not enough. You ought to say that here, and don't use this map for charter provisions X, Y, Z, because it's got nothing to do with it. And I think that's important. I do believe that people that are familiar with that charter provision and looked at this map reasonably would sit back and go, these are the things that you need a vote of the people on. And you've clearly said, no, that's not necessarily the case. And I think it's important that we communicate to our residents that utilize this map that that is the case. That is what this map is for. It's got nothing to do with any of that stuff, including any concerns you may have with regard to the ability to vacate a trail without the vote of the people. Do not use this map for that purpose. And I think it needs to be explicitly stated.
I think that's a good idea.
That's a,
On the right, doesn't it?
No, he's saying it doesn't say that.
It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo there that basically no one would come with that. I put it in there. I don't know what the charter provision is. 10.3, I don't know what it is. Do not utilize it for that purpose.
yes, this is not a representation of trails as referenced in section 10.3 of the charter.
Point nine of the
Is it
charter.
10.3? Did I?
I don't know,
Oh,
I'm making that up.
If you're going to go there, though, you have to go the next step of saying not only is it not usable for purposes of that, but it's not a complete list of all Cherry Hills trails, because it's just not.
Sorry, just to clarify, it is a representation of all Cherry Hills trails. It is not a representation of all Cherry Hills easements.
But an easement for a bridle path is a permitted trail use. I mean,
But if the trail isn't there, this is the distinction,
didn't
and
develop a
you're talking about a map of all the easements that we have. That's not what this is. This
this
is
is
a
a
map
list
of,
of currently developed trails.
yes.
And is not reflective of all trails potentially available to the village. And see, again, all of this working out language, that's why I just wanted to say, let's work on this instead of from the dais. Let's take time and either have a study session or, importantly, an executive session followed by a discussion where we could probably work out the appropriate language in 20 minutes.
Well, so I do appreciate that. There is an enormous amount of work that has gone into this. I don't know that, I don't know that I feel we need to have that lengthy of a discussion about those things. I don't feel that that conveying a trail on top of a road is likely to convey any kind of additional land use, because every single one of our streets is kind of subject to that, and that would mean that you could never vacate a street, and so I don't think that's the case. And I feel, even though I'm not an attorney, I feel fairly comfortable enough with that I'm willing to move forward. The one area that I do have concerns about, as City Attorney Guckenberger repeated the words out of my head, is removing any indication of public use from Cherry Hills Drive. And that has been on this trail map for decades and has potentially, I personally haven't, well, I have walked it. I haven't walked it as a trail, but I imagine there are lots of people who walk that way. It's a beautiful part of town. And that's the one concern I have, is that at some point in the future, a gate could pop up, and that may be well within their right to do. It's a private road. And there might be nothing we could do about it at the time, but I would hate to damage any chances we had at preserving that use. But that being said, so we have a motion on the table and a second to approve the map as is with no changes. I think we can call the question on that, and all in favor of approving the map as is, all opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that unanimously or nay.
Wait. I don't understand what you were saying.
There is a motion on the table and a second, and that
Right,
motion
was there-
fails.
And did you ask for ayes and nays?
Yes.
And,
There were no ayes.
okay.
And
And then, okay, I didn't realize that you moved to nays because I'm an A.
yes, okay. So at that motion fails. And so I would entertain an additional motion.
This isn't a motion. I'm going to make a suggestion that we look at this at our next meeting with revised language on the map about the lines not intending to convey any.
Right.
Okay.
Illustrating all the limitations that apply to this map.
That this come back to us with that new language in it.
And can we make
Okay.
it UCC bold and simple, instead of
What's
teeny
the fun
print?
in that
Yeah.
from a legal standpoint?
Okay, so I guess, and maybe
read it really
the
fast.
broader suggestion is that, given the context of the discussion tonight, is it reasonable to see the changes that we have suggested?
Not for the next meeting,
Okay.
unfortunately. It's too close with packets.
Okay, yeah.
I got that from our cartographer, yeah.
Well, okay, let me back up, because what I was suggesting was that we change that language, because that's something she can do in a paragraph that doesn't have to be reflected on this, the way something like the
Yeah,
purple
these other
line on
things.
Dahlia or the no crossing at the academy would actually be reflected on the map, right? If we can just look at a paragraph. And then, and Rob, I understand this isn't going to address your issues, we can have a motion that says we approve it with the changes that we've talked about and Scrivener errors, and we can have a vote on that, up or down, right? I mean, and perhaps in the meantime, there's some discussion that can go on. But I don't know that it makes sense to wait 3 months on this. But I think we can at least look at the revised language and have a vote on at least two issues that
There does
we've
seem to be
discussed.
some
Yeah.
consensus on
I would recommend
Now?
that.
No, she's
I
saying
recommend
that
that be a
when it comes
motion
back
to
with the new
table
language.
this
Okay, good.
till
And
it's.
by the way,
next
and-
meeting.
And just the new language, because I don't know where everybody stands on that. The change that I think needs to be in there with regard to the reference to the charter amendment.
Yes, that's what she's referring to.
Okay,
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I think
Beef up-
Susan's
beef
suggestion
up,
was
Good.
that this text, and it doesn't have to be graphically depicted on the map, but this text could be pulled out and brought back to us at our next meeting, and we could approve the text as the text, right? And then when it comes back to us, we could approve that text plus these two changes and/or anything else that might come up in the next 2 weeks, or anything people want to propose.
Yes, real quick. I have a recommendation for how to get there.
Yes.
However, first, before we get there, if we wanted to bring back a revised map that included language plus the 3 other changes, would the February 3rd council meeting work?
Yes.
So I would recommend to city council that somebody make a motion to continue this until February 3rd with the specific direction in the motion about the things that you want to see included.
So can we not get this on the next agenda for the middle of the month? My thought was just to speed this up, but, because I thought we were trying to get it out in time for you to use it for the summer programming.
Yes, but we won't be able to have the map changes themselves done until in time for the January 20th meeting. So in my mind, it makes more sense and would be more efficient for council to be able to look at it all at once again on the February 3rd
Agreed.
meeting rather than
Agreed.
piecemealing,
That's fine.
because it won't.
They won't be able to go to the printer
It won't actually speed
anyway,
it. Yeah,
so-
it won't actually speed it up because we'll still need to wait until that February 3rd meeting to approve
Okay.
it. So
But the
Why do we
reason,
need a motion?
the reason I think that we should have a motion is because I think all of council, there's been a lot of viewpoints expressed tonight. And I think that there should be an opportunity for council to, through their vote, express whether or not they support that approach or not.
Well, and I would, if we're going to continue the matter, I think it's important that we leave open any other matters that may come, we're
That's
not
what-
only continuing it to look at the 3 things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Because I think you mentioned there may be offline discussions about some of the legal questions that I have. And if that's the case, they should be able to be incorporated in the February 3rd discussion. And so in essence, we're continuing the matter to February 3rd. I mean,
No,
think
I'm requesting that you give us direction to do what you're saying. I don't know if
I
everybody
entertain
agrees
a
with it.
I move
Yes,
to
thank you.
continue this matter to February 3rd. Is that all you're looking for?
And to direct staff
And to direct staff to update the update the disclaimer language.
and, just that? Well, I think
Well, it would
Emily
be the
was planning
graphic
on
dis-
having at least these 2 changes.
the graphic changes to the map.
Okay, and to add the no crossing at the Academy Trail and Cherry Trail, to show the sidewalk on Dahlia, and to correct any other Scrivener errors on the map. And to,
I think that's it.
okay.
And, well, are you asking them, I get a question, are we asking that Gilpin be put back on the map pending the discussion, or? are we
I'm not-
asking
I
for-
don't think that she's requesting that. So let's vote on this motion first, and if you would
we
like
have
to
to
make a
second.
different motion
Let-
you can also make a motion to say,
We have a s-
and I'd like to, I move that we'd like to add this, and we can see if there's.
So let me just say, I don't think that's preventing any of those things to be brought up again at the next meeting, at the February meeting. I'm just saying these are the things
We've
that
agreed
people
on.
have agreed on. So let's direct them to do that. That leaves open. The other issues can be discussed between now and then, and maybe, people will be convinced or not. But I don't think that prohibits those issues from being brought up at the next meeting.
That's fair. So there's a motion and a second. The motion on the table is to continue this to February 3rd, directing staff to make the 3 changes that there have been consensus around, updating the disclaimer statement, adding the no crossing, and adding a purple line on Dahlia Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay.
Mayor, if
Yes.
I may, to prepare adequately for the February 3rd meeting, I would like to know specifically what legal questions council would like me to be prepared to answer,
Okay.
so that I can not fumble in front of you that night.
Well, I think the point that I have made about Cherry Hills Drive, if there is just, a description of whether there's any validity to that or not.
And that being a delineation of a trail on private road or private property on this map, what, if anything, is sacrificed by taking it off, if indeed there might not have been anything to begin with?
Let me,
Well, I think there might be.
Or is there?
Does the presence of a indicated trail on a trail map for some extended period of time provide or strengthen an argument for public access to that private property?
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to even broaden that to, the ultimate question is that a private bridle path easement, or has the passage of time and use by the public put that in the category of becoming a public easement?
Well, let's be
that's a
careful
fair
there, because that's a much broader question than what does this map do?
That's why I guess I was asking
So,
for
no, really
you guys
what we're
to
saying
vote
is-
on what you
is-
your direction is.
Is the fact that that trail, if you call it that, is the fact that on this map, we indicated a yellow dot on-street trail, give the city any rights to argue that the owner of that private road has granted the city some rights, or the citizens, I guess,
That the city has acquired some
some
right.
rights. And
But I would
does the
argue-
removal of that designation off of the trail map
Because to your
mean
point,
anything?
yeah, to your point, Rob, and I think that I absolutely was with you, and now hearing Susan reiterate that, this now becomes the equivalent of the trail that you're talking about between Devonshire and Buell. There is potentially a legal question as to whether that bridle trail is public or private. Our staff has researched it and has, given us opinion that they believe it to be private, but maybe there's still some discussion there. But the bottom line is that trail there is no existing trail there. So whether we have the right to build one or not is a question for a different time that we might be interested in. And that may only come up if and when the access to the private road, is not an option. So I think that, I think I'm comfortable that the legal question is whether or not having it appear on the map and then taking it off the map is going to hurt has consequences.
Madam
You
Mayor,
already know the answer to that. I mean, okay, it's a factor. That's all it is a factor. It would be something in an adverse possession case. You say, hey, look at the map, et cetera. Well, now it's not on the map. The question is how important or how significant of a factor is it at the end of the day? But it has some significance in terms of a discussion along those lines. This question, and then ultimately the other one, which is saying, but if we never had it to begin with, it doesn't matter at all.
Possibly. You're right. This is helping me very much.
All
to
of
hear
this, though, would be,
discussion.
to be a cynic, all of this would be an argument to just every street that we have, let's just mark them all as trails, and we start the process of gaining extra rights on every street we
You
have.
could put one on my yard.
This is only an issue because of the,
Just the private, okay, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only an issue on the, and it was an issue with private bridle trails, and we did end up, I mean, it was negotiated, but we were prepared to really make adverse possession claims for a trail that had been used for years, that had been maintained by the city, that appeared on the trail map. We were ready to go to bat for that. We didn't have to, but we would have. And I don't know, I don't want to shortchange the future and box people in the future.
Okay.
Just a comment, Mayor. I think we need to be a little bit careful here. There is a slippery slope. I was on Martha's Vineyard last summer, and this issue has arisen there relative to the beach, right? And so now private people are actually having teenagers stand on the beach and say, this is private, this beach is private, you cannot walk through here. And so if you want to get around it, you can go and swim in the water and then go to the public beach on the other side. So we need, there's a slippery slope. We don't want to encourage our private, streets to start putting up fences.
No, absolutely not. I mean,
Other
that's,
things. So I
and
think we
that's the
just need to be
concern.
careful here.
I feel like that there has been a, certainly not in this specific case, but that there's a movement in that direction in the city as a whole.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I think if you want to limit the legal opinion to what you've indicated, I think we need to rename this map as an existing trail map or existing developed trail map, because it doesn't reflect what we might make. It doesn't reflect things that are easements that are still out there. But I think, again, if you're trying to wind this thing up in the best fashion, you say it's an existing, because if we adopt the trail on Mansfield next year, we're going to have a new one. If we want to do another trail, a formal trail along some other street, it's going to, again, make this map further outdated. But I think you clarify that it is, as of the time of printing, it's an existing developed trail map.
Well, we can certainly call it that. I mean, there's no title on the map anywhere anyway, so.
Sorry.
Okay.
The title is just Cherry Hills Village Parks and Trails map. It will appear on the outer
on the little
cards,
card like
which aren't
this?
shown.
Okay.
But Councilor Ebert, to your point, your comment made me realize we don't have a date on this one, so we should certainly add a date, and then I think it becomes clear to the user, like it is on the January 2009 one, that this is the state of affairs as of 2026.
Yeah, that's fair.
This one was 2009?
You might be holding a 2009, you might be holding a 2007. I did not check all of them.
Okay.
The original was 2007, and then there was a reprint in 2009.
And if you have a misprint, it's worth a lot of money.
With due respect to that response, though, it doesn't address the question of whether or not, when you say it's an existing trail map and not having the thing by Devonshire as a trail, are you making a comment that one of the factors, that you don't deem that to be a city trail? And in reality, it's on the plat map. That plat map has been accepted by the city. It is a 12-foot wide bridle easement. It is. It legally is.
But there's no trail. It's an easement. It's not a trail.
If I
But
can,
it's a bridle trail. I mean, the exact language.
It's a bridle trail easement,
It's a bridle
correct?
trail
I don't have the
easement.
plat in front of me,
Correct.
but if it's a bridle trail easement, it has been allocated for the purpose of use as a bridle trail, but I'm understanding it hasn't been developed as a bridle trail, correct?
Correct.
yeah, if I can sort of bring us back up out of the weeds. The purpose of this map is really to show people walking around our trails where they can go, what it's going to be like. This map is not a comprehensive map of all of the city's easements, property interests, potential future trails, all of that. We do maintain that on the staff side, both those maps, lists. We have all of that information. That's not the purpose that this map is being designed to do by PTRC. This is really to educate people about, if I'm here, how do I get to the High Line efficiently? But we do
You just did a pretty good
have
job
all
of
that.
adding to the disclaimer.
Your
I mean, to be
disclaimer,
honest
yeah,
with you.
exactly.
And by the way, I would not put on there as of 2025.
Oh,
I would
sorry,
not
was
put
just-
that on the map. This is just basically a map that says, telling exactly what you said. Hey, go walk around on these trails, period. It's not as of. As of implies something is accurate as of this date. There's an implication.
I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. I will just put,
Printed.
January 2026, or whenever, February 2026, whenever.
When it was printed on,
Sorry, I
yeah.
shouldn't have said as of, we'll just put the date itself.
Okay. Let's keep things moving. Thank you so much for coming, Mary, and sitting quietly for hours on end. And please thank the commission for all the hard work on the map. It really is exciting, and it's going to be a great update. Okay, it is 9:05, and I will recess the city council meeting and call to order the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village Charlou Park 3rd Filing General Improvement District Board. Will you're not the clerk, I don't know,
I'm
the
the
secretary call the roll?
Board Member Heller?
Here.
Board Member Eber?
Here.
Board Member Holland?
Here.
Chair Brown?
Here?
Board Member McGuire?
Present?
Board Member Robinson?
Here.
Board Member Fisher?
The next up is the consent
Move
agenda.
approval of consent agenda items 13A, B, and C.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. It is now 9:05 PM, and I will adjourn the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village Charlou Park 3rd Filing General Improvement District Board, and I will call to order the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village Southmoor Circle and Hudson Parkway General Improvement District Board. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Board Member Heller?
Here.
Board Member Eber?
Here.
Board Member Holland?
Here.
Chair Brown?
Here?
Board Member McGuire?
Here.
Board Member Robinson?
Here.
Board Member Fisher?
Move approval of consent agenda items 20A, B, and C.
Second.
It is moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. It is 9:06 PM, and I will adjourn the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village Southmoor Circle and Hudson Parkway General Improvement District Board and reconvene the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village City Council. And we will go to reports, and I'm going to start with City Council since I'm clearly having a coughing attack, so I'll go with Councilor Fisher.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to have a fun little thing to say that on behalf of HAT, which stands for Homeless Awareness and Action Task Force, HAT Force, I just wanted to thank everybody in this room and all of our community members who have made generous donations of winter coats and gloves and hand warmers and shelf-stable milk to our Winter Essentials Drive. It is not over yet. We're holding that drive to the end of January, but our boxes were overflowing. So thanks to City Clerk Gillespie and Court Clerk Woods. They sort of keep an eye on that box and let me know when I need to come in and clear it out. And I sorted all the coats, and we had over 60 coats as of yesterday, plus a lot of other things like gloves and things that they had asked for. So I contacted Hat Force and said, can I bring the first load over? And they said, absolutely. And so I met a woman there today, and she said this was such good timing because they anticipate issuing vouchers this week because the weather's supposed to change later this week. But I also wanted to mention that, as I said, the donation drive is going to run until the end of January. And more information on Hat Force, which offers severe weather shelter and resources for people who are unhoused in the South Metro region, can be found at www.hatforce.org. And then, just on a personal note, I attended the winter celebration with my extended family, my children and grandchildren and husband, and it was terrific. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Robinson.
First, just an observation that tomorrow it'll be 1 year that Councilor Fisher, Heller, and I joined the city council.
And you've all made it this far.
We made it 1 year. It's gone by very quickly. My only comment is that if anybody's interested, I'm planning to go representing Cherry Hills, but Mayor Stephanie Pico is having a retirement event Thursday at 5 p.m. at the Community College of Aurora on East Arapahoe Road. So let me know if you plan to come. I'm planning to go. We'll miss her, is what I will say.
I will be there. I'll see you there.
Okay.
Councilor McGuire.
Just wanted to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And was it here that somebody said you're only allowed to say that till the 9th?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, somebody told me that today. I wanted to congratulate the chief and his force on resolving the issue of the person setting off incendiary devices along the canal, which could have really resulted in some, as dry as things are, the fire risk was tremendous. So I'm really glad you got that resolved in a safe way. Thank you. And wanted to say thank you to Emily for her work on the trail map, and Jay, I'm sure you were involved in that, and whoever else was. It's a lot of great progress, and I know we'll get to a good resolution. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Holland.
Just like to thank Councilor Fisher for spearheading that hat drive. That was terrific. I mean, I'm glad that Cherry Hill stepped up to that, so thanks for doing that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and it came right after the Cherry Hills Country Club thing, with our tree removal provision, or replacement provision, I thought it was strange, but there's three things. One, you build a new house and you tear down a tree, or you remodel a house for more than 50%, or what was the third one?
You do it within 12 months.
Yeah, you do those two things within 12 months.
You do it within 12 months of what?
You get a permit to do those things within 12
Right, you
months.
submit a permit to us within 12 months.
That's, when I read that, I thought, well, that's strange. So there's a big tree on your lot, beautiful tree, and everybody loves it. And I'm just going to tear it down. I'm not building a house. I'm not remodeling anything. I'm just cutting that freaking tree down. Fine. But if I build a house, now you got to replace it. That seems bizarre to me.
Well, you have the right to cut down your trees, Earl. I mean.
Well, no. Well, Well, then, but if I build a house, I don't.
Well, we've debated this many, yes, because the lot where they cut down all those trees, when people come in to remove trees solely for the purpose of construction, this community wanted to see them put back, but you can't tell somebody that they can't remove a tree. What if it's blocking your view? What if it's?
I removed 2 huge trees from our lot. It killed me to do it, but the roots were interfering with the foundation of the house.
No, I got, you guys are going in the opposite direction. I'm coming at it this way. I'm like going, I got a valid reason to cut that tree down.
Yeah.
I don't have a valid reason, or maybe I don't, roots. But, well, no, but I mean, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think this came from speculative development, where people come in and, clear cut the lot, build a house, have no interest in living there, have no, interest in the impact that has on the community. I think it's less often the case with, people who've lived in the village. But yeah, it's a fine line, and.
Well, no, in other words, what it amounts to is like, evidently, it must have been like, yeah, we want to stop them from doing trees, but we know we can't because of private property rights. But if they want to get a building permit, then we can get them. So let's attach it to that.
No, I think it really came.
No, that's it. That is it.
That wasn't the thinking behind it. I think it was, again, it was coming from people coming in and clear cutting lots, just like that lot on the corner, to build a house. Franklin.
No,
everybody knows the tree lot.
Well, I know when that
Yeah.
happened. I mean, are you telling me that that's when that ordinance was passed then?
No, it was before that, but it was that type of thing
Right.
that prompted that consideration of that tree ordinance. That was what,
That's
type
what-
of thing was what prompted a discussion of, well, there should be some requirements. And there are landscaping requirements in a lot of new development.
Okay, well, hey,
And, the end run around it, and this came up too, when that lot came about, it came up again for discussion. And, because the end run is, so you cut down your trees and you wait a year, and then you build the house.
Yes.
Well,
And
anyway,
and then you just circumvented the whole thing,
It seemed
so.
irrational to me, but
right,
what do I know? Anyway, that's all I have, no other report.
Counselor Eber.
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow night, I will attend by video conferencing the DRCOG meeting. I will report back after that. I did want to extend that, although I'm the representative on DRCOG, am I? Yeah, I am. The question came up, I got confused with CML for a second. They are calling for, if anybody is interested in being on the executive committee of DRCOG, to submit applications on or before the 7th, and I know that's tight. It was originally the 2nd,
That's
but
tomorrow.
because of the holiday, they extended it to the 7th. But if anybody has an interest, see me, and I will give you the website. Other than that, again, thank you to the city. It was a fabulous winter event. You guys did a great, great job. The entire evening was really, really good. Thank you, Mayor, for lighting the Christmas tree and telling everybody that you won't have a lump of coal in your stocking because the tree did in fact light. But it was a great event, and the time that city staff spends putting this thing together is a huge commitment. And to all of you who do this, thank you, and thank you again on behalf of all the citizens of the village. I wish everybody a very happy new year and look forward to a very productive 2026. Thank you.
Yes.
Two quick items. I want to echo Councilor McGuire's thank you to the chief, but also for the arrest today or yesterday morning, but also add that an arrest was made on the theft in my district as well in the last 10 days or so. So some good police work going on in Cherry Hills Village. Thank you, Chief. The second is just, as I always do, report on the Centennial Noise panel. And here, just to report that there are some proposed changes for departures to the north, which is runway 35 right. About 40% of the departures are to the north, 60% to the south. They will not really impact Cherry Hills Village in terms of the number of flights or how many fly over, which they do. I have both the current and the proposed. But because it'll be, the departures will be headed a little slightly more towards Cherry Creek Reservoir. When they do come over Cherry Hills Village, they'll be higher up. So there should actually be a noise reduction and no increase in flights, but nonetheless, projected. But nonetheless, there is a change that is being proposed. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that.
And what is the change?
It's just slightly moving to it would be, I guess it would be northeast.
Okay.
Off the 35 right, so the departures go a little bit closer to Cherry Creek State Park.
Got it.
And then when they turn to the west, which they do today, over Cherry Hills Village, Greenwood Village, and to the north, they'll be higher up.
Okay, thank you. For the mayor's report, I don't have a lot to report, but I would like to reiterate the thanks to all of the staff. I noticed in the Public Works Department, there's talk about the work that they did on all of the decorations for the Winter Festival night, but I mean, it's really amazing how much work clearly goes into that. And then even to be there and running all the things, it's just an amazing display of dedication from our staff. And so please pass that along, Public Works, and to our Parks and Recreation crew and all our volunteers and staff people as well. Metro Mayor's Caucus is coming up. There's a lot of legislative kickoff type events, the South Metro Chamber, Metro Mayor's Caucus, Denver Association of Realtors. I'll be attending a lot of those things coming up. There's a lot of news around budget proposals, and things just keep getting on a state level more and more dire. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes out. On the one hand, that might be good, because without any money, there might not be a lot of meddling that can be done. On the other hand, it might be bad, because they don't seem to understand the concept of unfunded mandates. And so there may be more efforts to push costs of things onto local governments. And so we're just heading into that very busy season. And I'm sure we'll all be watching carefully.
Mayor, can I just make a comment on that? I
Yeah.
listened to a pre-legislative session update today, and it's just worth noting that everyone's talking about the $750 million to $1 billion shortfall in the budget. It is not a spending cut. The actual amount of the budget is up quite a bit from last year. Revenues are up from last year, if you understand the difference, right? Yeah. So it is that we have a $650 million estimated increase in Medicaid costs. And I heard from several people that the Colorado State Medicaid is among the worst in the country in terms of how it is run and its efficiency. And so something that maybe with the new governor will change. But anyways, it's just interesting to note that it's not the budget. It's, they're not cutting spending. Spending's
Yes.
going up.
Yes.
It's just not able to go up quite as much as they have.
Doesn't go as far as
as they've mandated, or the things that they have put in place. So anyways.
At least it's not Minnesota.
I had one question that I meant to bring up. The highway user tax, is that state money or federal money?
That is state money.
That's state.
Yes.
So in the threat from the governor to take away money, I think
That was it.
that was the only portion that is that all we get from the state?
Yeah, but I think.
Well, in that
that's not,
particular
that
bill, I
one,
think
that
you
one
have
was
not doing
taken
it.
out because it's not eligible.
That's
It's
right.
not, okay.
That was originally the penalty for Senate, for
Yeah.
but the not complying with the transit-oriented communities bill, but they got that removed.
And we haven't
So-
heard anything more about that? Or do we?
No,
we-
that, there's no new
Nothing new.
news.
Okay.
Which is not
Other
good
than
news,
potential
but-
impacts of other Supreme Court cases that you could infer from.
I just
Yes.
have no more letters from
No.
the state saying.
Well,
Well, not on the transit-oriented communities, but on Senate Bill, what is it, 271, the planning for housing, creating housing plans.
We're out of compliance.
We are out of compliance. So
They've notified us.
they've
that we're out of
notified us that we
compliance.
are not in compliance and reminded us of what those deadlines are.
And I think as a result, we're not eligible for grant
Correct.
funding.
Correct.
For things that we don't get anyway, so.
So we were notified by a letter. How were we notified?
I received a letter. I don't know if the mayor did as well.
I think
but
I did as
receive a
well.
letter.
I'd like to see a copy of that. Could you send me a copy?
If you want to look at it,
See it, but I'd like to see it.
yeah. If the rest of council would like to see it, I can include it in the Friday update this week. Okay.
City manager.
Director Workman.
Well, that was number one on my list. I can mark that. As the mayor said, the state legislature kicks off next week, and so we're gearing up for what that might be related to housing and a whole host of other things. Also want to note that I've been closing out 2025 over the last few days, and you'll see some of this information in your packet on the 20th, but by basically any metric, building permits were astoundingly high last year. And, right, I like to use the rat and the snake analogy, right? It takes a little while. Once you get a permit, it takes a little while to get through.
I wasn't sure what that analogy was. Now I get it. Okay.
Right? Just because we get a permit or we issue a permit doesn't mean that it's over, right? A permit lifespan, its life cycle, can be anywhere from a few days to a few years. And so this does represent work that we've already done, but work that we will have to continue to do on a day-to-day basis in order to provide the customer service for our residents. In 25, we saw almost 20% increase in new permit submittals year over year. And just in the fourth quarter of 2025, we received about a third more permits in the fourth quarter of 25 than we did in the fourth quarter of 24. So just in the fourth quarter was crazy busy. In terms of the permits that we've issued, 2025 marks the most number of permits we've issued in any of the last 10 years. And it's 16% over our 10-year average for year over year. And just in the fourth quarter of 2025, it's the most number of permits that we issued in any fourth quarter that we have on record. So again, it is a process. We've been inundated with building permits. We're crossing our fingers for a little relief in 26. I'm hopeful that it will slow down a little bit, but that's why I started with the rat and the snake analogy, right? Is just because you see these numbers in your monthly report and a permit gets issued, that doesn't mean that we're done dealing with that permit, right? We still have inspections, we still have permit revisions that we deal with. And so, you know, we are doing our absolute best to maintain a high level of customer service. If you all do hear from residents, I would like to know so that we can monitor how we can continue to provide and be responsive to our residents. But just want to share that. And a big thank you to our A team. We would not be able to process that type of volume without their help on a daily basis. So thank you guys. It really is a team, and thank you for that. So that's it for me.
Thank you for your kind words about winter celebration. It is weeks of work leading up to it for our crew, and then it is like a 14 or 16-hour day for all of them. So it is a ton of work. So thank you for recognizing that. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank our Public Works Supervisor, Jeff Roberts, for his work on the trail map also, and the rest of our parks crew. Jeff and I spent ages working on it with PTRC, and then we handed it off to the crew. They're the ones that know the trails best. They're on them all the time. So it really was a group effort. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have no report.
Or you need to borrow that?
I didn't even see you all the way over there.
I was hiding, but I was here and listening, and I also have no report, but I wanted to say thank you for your support for the village and GID budget calendars. That helps keep us on track and moving forward in finance, so thank you.
Maybe one time we can vote no.
No.
Like, no.
Don't do that to me. I made pretty PowerPoints just in case anything got pulled off, and they just got to sit in the drive.
City Clerk.
Just a reminder that this Friday is the recreation reimbursement deadline for this year. It's a little earlier than has been in past years because we switched to be the second Friday of the month. So if you haven't turned it in and you have the receipts, get them in this week. And you probably noticed that the format of the minutes that were in your packet were a little different. We are trying using the assistance of a computer program that allows us to do more detail in a shorter amount of time. Right now it's a free trial, but hopefully that's helpful to have that extra detail.
Awesome. I did actually notice, but I didn't know you were using a computer program. I was like, huh. Anyway, okay.
Just a couple things. First, thank you for the recognition on this morning's arrest. Just a quick update on that case. Although it's an ongoing investigation, I'll limit the details, but it is worth noting that an arrest was made this morning on an adult suspect, 18 years old, out of Denver, who will be facing a significant amount of felony charges. Everyone in my organization, to a person, everyone touched this case in some way. Great police work, not just by them, but by our federal partners as well. The U.S. Marshal Service is involved, the Secret Service is involved, the ATF is involved, and as of late this afternoon, the FBI is involved. So everyone has touched that case. Collaborative effort between just good police work and a tremendous amount of technology. As I was sort of outlining some of those technologies today, it sort of dawned on me that over the last few years, the police department has added a tremendous amount of software and hardware products that maybe some of you have not yet been privy to. And I'd like to extend an invitation to each of you at some point, not just anecdotally. I'll reach out to each of you and invite you over to the police department to kind of see what we are doing. Some of that technology is either unfamiliar or maybe even uncertain to some of you, and I like to showcase what we have, how we're using it, and the safeguards that we have legislated by policy to make sure that those technologies are being used in the most fruitful and effective and appropriate ways. So I'll reach out to each of you to accomplish that over the next few weeks. And then lastly, tomorrow, our new court security measures will be in place at municipal court. There will be an impact to the entrance into the building, but that impact should be limited. We've rehearsed it, and we've run through it a few times. There's going to be a few bumps along the way, but really proud of what that product looks like and the increased efficiencies and security measures that will be in place for the judge and the court clerk and the patrons that have to come to court. So thank you.
Okay, I'll just mention as a little more detail, right? On December 22nd, I sent you all a quick email about a Supreme Court case from Colorado Supreme Court about preemption of municipal sentencing for non-felony offenses and specifically overruling the city's home rule authority on that front. So I did promise additional analysis on that. That is underway. I expect that to get to you very soon, hopefully this week, with just a little more elucidation on the details and analysis points in that opinion and what we think that might bode for the city long-term. So look for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has CML come out with anything on that?
They sent an email.
They did.
Yeah, the director, Kevin Baumer, did send an email, and then Robert Sheasley, the general counsel, has been in touch with us. In fact, we had a call with him that day before I emailed you guys at 1:30 in the afternoon. There's a lot of interesting, significant things, I think, that come out of this, but from the CML perspective, it was not a good decision. And
They disagree with it.
they disagree. They're not alone in that, I think. But yeah, they're on it. I'll provide you some more background on that.
It does seem like it provides some insight into the current makeup of the court. A unanimous decision.
By all participating justices, one was not participating. She's since resigned from, or retired, I think, right? But yes, it's
Discouraging.
The CML email is I think provides a pretty good overview of the argument and the implication for the argument and why they disagree with the way that was interpreted. But
yeah, it's and we'll show you some excerpts from the case that may make you feel the same way if you don't already.
all right.
You know, when you don't have a meeting for a month, everybody has all these updates, right? You got to get everybody, and I too will join in that with multiple updates. I know I've had a chance to just mention to a couple of council members, but for the council overall, I do want to plant a seed with you about some activities that are going on related to the transfer of the Highline Canal to Arapahoe County. Arapahoe County is going through a process of trying to understand how it wants to administer the canal. And that might eventually, maybe depends, might have impacts onto the 26 schedule where we were supposed to sign in a couple of agreements related to stormwater and recreation. That could be impacted by these discussions, remains to be seen. At this point, all these conversations are occurring at a staff level, but at such time that they stop becoming at a staff level and elected officials need to jump in with both feet, just be aware we are at the forefront of staying on top of this issue. Number two, I too want to congratulate the police department. They proactively reacted to the situation in a way that I don't think everybody in the metro area would have. the decision to get the extra cameras, how they handle the extra cameras, the coordination with the patrol as they're out, especially the overnight patrol, top notch. And then it all hits, and that's where the crazy stuff happens, and you'd never know that there was this multitude of different agencies at different levels of government all jumping on the scene all at once. It was top notch. Well done, Chief, and to the entire department. Similarly, the winter celebration, again, everybody here said it but still it bears repeating. From my perspective, I appreciate all of staff. You know, it's winter time and people would love to be with their family, and they're here, and thank you for all of that. No one said anything. You know, we didn't really get a chance to talk much at the time because we had somebody from APWA talk. I also want to offer my congratulations to Jay Goldie.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, state manager of the year, not just the, Denver, the state manager of the year. And I went to the lunch where they had the award celebration. You know, he is a minor celebrity in the state public works world. It's amazing. Everybody knows him. He clearly has a stellar reputation. It reflects very well on the village. And I think when you drive on our roads, or if you drive around after a storm event or whatever it might be, I think you see how all of that translates into the real world to benefit our village residents. The last thing I guess I'll say is we are busy since we have last talked about the work plan. There's been a number of items that really have frankly need to be incorporated into that really are no doing of our own. They are being foisted upon us by the real world, whether that's a nexus study for impact fees or things like that. Those are currently not on our work plan. So we are going through a process of basically updating or refreshing the work plan as we head into 2026. Be aware that we are going to present to you a modification of that work plan. As the work plan itself gets adjusted over time and how different people use it, going from primarily a small staff tool to a much larger document that a lot of folks get to use, we are going to break it into two parts. There's going to be an operational work plan that are day-to-day things that staff primarily does. You know, you give us direction and we carry forth. Mill and overlay, chip seal, reviewing building permits, reviewing land use cases. These are not things that we really adjust, at that level. But then we'll have a separate work plan that are going to be for projects mostly, right? And that's where council has an opportunity to have a lot of input. Another reason, though, that we as staff are going back and refreshing all of that right now is because there is a chance, and stay tuned, we'll come back to you with more definite details, but there's a chance that in the first quarter of 2026, we may be over capacity. So we may be asking you to help us prioritize projects because, as you've heard, the building permit numbers, Paul did a very excellent job about keeping his part of that very professional. I will tell you, though, we are not designed to handle that volume of permits. The number of site plan amendments, everybody who could submit a site plan amendment has one in the door right now. It is shocking. Everybody, Village Club, Arapahoe Tennis Club, Glenmore, the Country Club, everybody and their brother has a site plan amendment. We are, and it's not just community development. We have a lot of projects that we know council wants to address in the first quarter. We're going to need to likely bring back to you some options for prioritization. So stay tuned for that. I think it's all good news. What started off as just a nice little thing to just keep things at the forefront, a nice little tool for staff to use. It has certainly grown. And I think that's a good thing. We're just trying to adapt to make it so that it's workable for everybody who wants to use it. Does that make sense? So I'm not exactly sure. I think we're going to shoot for, at the next meeting, providing you with maybe some tentative copies and maybe even initial discussion about prioritization, but stay tuned. I don't want to commit to that all the way yet.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it.
Well, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Assume there's no objection. We are adjourned at 9:39 PM.